All right, we're live. I just tweeted up the link. Live now, talking Stonks.
Yeah. Late night with Mitt. This is what it's
Late
called.
night with Mitt. That's what we're talking about. We have
Late
Drew
night
is
stock
here.
talk.
Cameron is here. Guys, hello. We are here with Mitt is not legit, otherwise financer, and Emmanuel, who also has a very interesting name here today.
Vitaly needs to go pee. I just saw that.
I said a tweet today, to everyone who's watching, all four of you, that I had to go pee when I sit down. For some reason, every time I sit down, I have to go pee. And Vitaly said that I'm not allowed to pee if I'm building a startup. So
Nope. And I'm investing, so definitely not allowed to go pee.
So I'm not allowed to go pee.
Well, that's the problem with drinking too much water. You have to stay hydrated, but then you got to go to the bathroom every 10 minesse. So something's got to give.
This is why I keep a glass next to me at all times.
I've been drinking way too much water, but it's good. I mean, like, I don't drink enough water, to be honest. So water is important. So yeah, we're just gonna be talking late night stocks, getting into the discussion. I want to start the conversation off with Elon. I want to know everyone's take. What did you guys think? I think I have a take. It's not too different from a lot of other people, but I think it's interesting. Let's start off with Mid is not legit. How'd you feel about this Elon news?
Oh, the fact that he bought $3 billion worth of Twitter. So I saw your video, and I was going to actually reference some of that material later. Okay. But I think he knew about that. He was going to buy this anyway. Like, this was his plan. He's been talking about this for a long time. And I love that he does these polls, like pretending that he cares what anybody says, because he doesn't. Let's face it. And you don't spend $3 billion just because there's a poll, and then the next day you spend $3 billion. Like, this must have been organized where this was going to happen. He must have found out that he can do this somehow, that he can do it without affecting the market all in one swoop, first of all, right? Imagine $3 billion comes into a company. That actually moves the stock. Even a high market cap stock can get moved pretty fast. So I think this is all pre-planned. I don't think this is some sort of just, 1 second he's I'm not doing this, and the next second I'm doing it, that kind of thing.
Do you think that he planned it with any of the Twitter members, the board members, or did he sneak it in?
I think it's possible.
Showing like a boss move, saying, "Look what I could do without you guys knowing."
Imagine you're a billionaire like Elon, and you must know the other billionaires, like who's the CEO of Twitter, or the former CEO, Jack Dorsey. I mean, it seems like the right thing to do to go to Jack and say, "Look, I'm planning to do this move. Is this okay by you?" Not to be like a total dick, because I'm sure he wouldn't want someone to come in and smash Tesla the same way. So exactly. I feel like there's a lot of politics going on in the background that we aren't privy to. And sorry I cursed on your stream a minute already.
I could see him talking to Jack. Yeah, that's a good point. And also, interestingly enough, Jack had that tweet last week. It was a bizarre tweet. I felt it was sort of cryptic. I felt like he was almost apologizing for his role of censorship.
Yo, this was some pussy shit. Oh my! All right, we got to show this shit right now.
You bring it up, yeah. I don't even know this.
I'm about to show you. Didn't see that? This was so. I looked at this tweet like, what is wrong with you, bro? Like,
but did you understand what he meant? Because I was trying.
No, I got it. It wasn't clear. Stupid. Well, no, I understood exactly what he meant. I'm just like, this is dumb, bro. Like, I was just like, what is wrong with this guy, bro? This guy's like, all right. So, this was the tweet. He says the days of Usernet, IRC, the web, even email with PGP were amazing. Centralizing discovery and identity into corporations really damaged the internet. I realize I'm partially to blame, and I regret it. So what he's saying here is companies like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc., that have allowed individuals to use their platforms as the mechanism by which they build a virtual identity and online resume. Professionals, LinkedIn, more party is kind of like Instagram. Allowed discovery of people and individuals to be centralized within corporations that offer those platforms in order for people to be able to use it. And he says, well, he made Twitter, and he says, I realize I'm partly to blame and I regret it. Now, the reason he's saying this is because he's a Bitcoin, bull, decentralized everything type of guy. So his argument is like, it shouldn't have been done this way. It should have been done in a different way. And there were some people who agreed with it, but there was a lot of people that disagreed. And this guy I really respect a lot. He takes the opposite view to everything that Jack says, and he sort of disagrees. But the core argument to me, I don't know if I can find his tweets. The core argument to me was just like, it doesn't make any sense to feel bad about this, because the way I understand content is that like discovery is that if you build a platform and you get billions of people using it, you open up all those opportunities for those people. So he's like feeling bad about making Twitter because like it's centralized to Twitter.
Well, you got to remember now he's a big Bitcoin maximalist too. So he basically is going towards that model of decentralization while he started two massive public companies that are the opposite of decentralization, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of political stuff just that goes on with these guys. They, they're thinking on a different level than us, unfortunately, because they have to, right? So I think this is all preemptive. He was probably tweeting that, discussing with Elon what's been going on, because they talked on Kathy Wood's podcast. I don't know if you remember. So they know each other.
The B word, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on in behind the scenes. So I think this was all in play. Whether the CEO of Twitter knew that, he might have known it too, and that's why he came out so fast today. He even posted, I don't know if you saw, he posted a link to saying that be careful what you vote on this. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So referencing Elon's old saying. So
he's playing Elon's game now. Like the CTO never acted like, be careful what you vote on this on Twitter. Like, that's not his personality at all. But now that Elon's in the game,
right?
But I have a question. Was Jack Amit? You said Jack was apologizing for making Twitter. Is he not apologizing for the censorship that he took part in?
I mean, if he's apologizing for that, I'm on board with him. But that argument, so he might be apologizing for the way I understand it is he's apologizing for Twitter, the company, having centralized control of 300 million people every single day. That is now the Bitcoin people, the real Bitcoin maximalists will say that shouldn't exist. It should be decentralized. There should be a decentralized message of social media, all that stuff. Now, he's probably apologizing for censorship, which I agree. He probably should. But the actual idea that Twitter as a central authority is bad because it is a corporation that has centralized people's identity, I think a lot of it is all talk. Like all these people that are saying that it's all talk. There is no decentralized mechanism by which you get billions of people to come in one place and then create the massive amounts of opportunity that is created as a result of that happening. And that's not spread to one person or one company. The amount of people that have built a following and therefore a living off Twitter because Jack built a company that got a bunch of people together in one place, it's big.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have no issue with that. But it's like we spoke about. I posted that video. We got to talk, and even initially, Amit, when we spoke 3 months ago, when I was talking to you about Adia, man, censorship is huge for me, and I know a lot of people that I was fans of and following getting censored off Twitter. So the censorship issue is huge. So I'm so happy that Elon's in here hoping to save the day. I hope he does, because I've witnessed a lot of unfairness from Twitter.
Well, go ahead, Vitaly.
What kind of unfairness? What do you mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of censorship towards one direction. So a lot of conservative thinking, or even I would say Christian people that I follow. Some ads weren't allowed from one part of the argument, while the other part of the argument was allowed to advertise on Twitter. So I'm speaking directly about the pro-life movement in that direction. Pro-lifers weren't allowed to advertise on Twitter. They were banned from advertising. But on the other side of that debate, those people were allowed. So that's picking sides.
Well, it's also how you say the message. See, I'm not such I don't think Twitter is the censorship capital of the world. I actually don't believe that. They allow a lot of people to say a lot of things, and I read all sorts of hate and shitty comments all day long. And Amit probably gets some of those comments, if I'm not wrong.
From you, by the way.
Mostly from me. So I wasn't censored. But my point is that, look, it's a corporation, all right? It's their platform, okay? I don't think Elon can possibly change that whole thing like the way you're saying it. And also the way you say the message, like I don't know exactly how they said that message, because there's a right way to say a message and a wrong way, right? There's a way that pushes your agenda more negative, and there's a way that pushes it more positive. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not there at Twitter picking the keywords, sort of, but Twitter seems like a mostly open. Hold on, I'll be the man out, one man out, but I don't think Twitter is like the evil corporation of the world. It's funny we're switching to them when everybody was talking about Facebook. So I don't know.
No, I want to put something in to center this conversation you both are having. Let's talk about Trump objectively, because I think that's an objective hard line. Did he deserve to be censored from Twitter?
I would say yes.
Okay, there
Sorry,
we go.
guys.
We got a debate.
Sorry, guys.
What's the argument?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, wait, let me check the comments.
You can 50-50.
Well, the reason is because, look, if you do oh no, I'm going to get myself into trouble. If you do incite some sort of violence at some point, even if it's a little bit, okay, you're not allowed to yell fire in a public room, and you're not allowed to yell fire on Twitter, I'm afraid. So even if you do it a little bit, I would say that's grounds for being removed. Even me, if I did something against it, obviously he's the president, so he had more leeway. He was left alone for how many years? 2 years, 3 years? Like, it was literally like a final straw that sort of broke the camel's back. It wasn't just like one incident. So I'm going to get in trouble for this. I know half the audience.
No, it's not. You shouldn't have to get in trouble, man. This is the whole point of free speech. You should be able to say, I think Trump deserved to get off Twitter. That's fine.
Yeah. But the thing is, does he deserve to get back? I would say that's also true. He deserves to get back after penance or whatever happens, and the rules change. He's allowed to get back. I would say that as well, even if I don't like it.
Okay. The argument I heard on the reverse of that is that members of ISIS have Twitter accounts and were never banned, and other similar members. So, I mean, did you see that Joe Rogan with Jack Dorsey? Because he went on
By the
twice
way,
and they spoke exclusively.
But
they spoke exclusively.
supports ISIS. Let that be said. Right?
I'm for ISIS.
Man, the censorship thing is tough.
Your argument is it's a slippery slope, right? Because I understand what's his name, Vitaly's. I see Amit is not legit. I'm like, what the hell is his name? I understand Vitaly's point, right? Inciting violence, and I think January 6th, a lot of emotions were there. But I also think, Emmanuel, your point, because I've seen some people on Twitter say some crazy things. Like, yeah, I mean, I think Elon brought up the point that, like, you can't have dictatorial regimes and presidents that are part of it, like Russia and China, like, have government accounts on Twitter and be able to speak freely on Twitter when their own countries, they don't allow free speech. So it's a super, like, which way do we go? Which way do we not go? I think ultimately the thing with Elon coming on board, and this is the thing that I'm really confused about, is what happens when Twitter wants to censor like another senator because they said something, like, right? Like what happens when either Elon's coming on board and it was Jack who wanted to do all that shit, which I kind of don't believe, and the new management wants to embrace free speech, which is why they let Elon on board, or they let Elon on board because they realized the stock was in the gutter. They had to do something the stock. But now when it comes to free speech, if they are not philosophically aligned on that question, it's going to be a shit show, in my opinion.
I agree.
I just don't know where to draw the line. Like Vitaly, you're saying, okay, you think that Trump should have been, but then, like, where do you draw the line? Who else should be? Are you picking on Trump because he had a larger audience? Does it matter on the audience you have?
Yeah, I'm not the guy to pick the line, by the way. I'm not actually saying, I'm not one of those Twitter people believes I should be picking the line. Okay, so, but I do know that if I yell fire in a movie theater, as the old saying goes, I deserve to be kicked out or arrested or whatever the thing is. Trump got a lot more leeway because he's Trump. He's the president. He's allowed to say more things. But at some point, he's not allowed to cross even. Twitter's a public company, by the way. They don't have to have anybody on their platform. I'm a capitalist at the end of the day. So if I believe that Twitter should be able to do what it's allowed to do because it's a company, we did not make it a public utility.
But if we do make it a 300 million people use it.
If we do make it a public utility, no, that's a false argument what you're bringing up. Maybe the straw man argument here, because it's a company that's not a public utility yet. At some point in the future, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's declared a public utility because we hate corporations. Fine, we'll go along with it. But that's not what it is right now. They're allowed to do what they can to make the money the way they can, right?
I agree. Boom. It's just a question of, like, if that many people use it, you're not wrong on this. It's the problem is people will stop using it if people keep getting censored on it and it gets that big. Like it at the point where Twitter's the only way to, like, break news articles or something, right? Theoretically, the only way. We just gotta hope that like YouTube's the only video platform. If I get censored off YouTube, there's nowhere else to distribute my videos, which means I have to play by the rules. I agree, but I think what Emmanuel is saying is, like, make the rules as lenient as possible, because as soon as you start making the rules super fucking hyper narrow specific, then it's like, all right, where do I go to put my videos out there? There's nowhere else. Because
for the most part, Twitter has a block function. So if someone's harassing me, I can either unfollow or block. If I don't like what they're saying, I can unfollow or block. So for the most part, that's censorship can be taken care of in your own hands, in the hands of the user. if I don't like what someone's saying, you know, I'm not following the ISIS guy. So I take that into my own hands. But when the management is sort of stepping in and saying who's right and who's wrong, and you know what I think really was the straw that broke the camel's back, when they just censored the Babylon Bee 10 days ago. And Elon's friends with them. He did a podcast with them. He quotes them. He finds them funny. He likes them as people. So I'm sure that really got him in. So even they were censored. And I guess at a point he's like,
do you think Elon's going to change this, Emmanuel? Like, do you think he actually makes it?
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'll open up at least a discussion. You know, he won't write the rules, but at least in the board meetings, I'm sure they'll have a discussion of like, listen, you're banning a satirical comedy page. Like,
well, I would say that's going over the line. I agree with you, because you can't be banning comedians, okay, or slapping them.
I gotta get your thoughts on that too. We got to talk about that.
No, but I'm saying you're right on that. So the problem is that there are there's people right now maybe pressing the button, like actual person deciding. I don't know, and I guess I'm more comfortable with the algorithm deciding certain things as opposed to one person. Well, the reason I say it is because like one person is highly flawed unless there's a committee of 100 people and they go through every tweet, which is not going to happen, right? So it's probably going to be some algorithm with some keywords. Or if anyone is inciting violence, like I keep going back to that, but banning comedians or something silly like that, that's ridiculous. I agree with you there.
Yeah, that's why it's just hard to draw the line.
But YouTube does that too, by the way. YouTube does, lots of people recently have been blocked on YouTube. Big channels. Have you seen that?
Which ones are you talking about, Vitaly?
Well, the finance channels. Who was recently kicked off? There was Graham Stephan.
What?
He was kicked off for a day or two. It wasn't long.
Was that an April Fool's joke that you fell for? Or like
No. He was kicked off for like a day or two. His channel was blocked because of some spam comment thing, because he replied in one of his comments, like a joke spam comment, and he was kicked off.
Yeah.
So the algorithm gone wrong, basically.
Yeah,
but so all these platforms, this is the one conversation. It's not only Twitter. This is Facebook problem. This is a YouTube problem. So I think the solution you guys are looking for is, are they public utilities? Let's make them public utilities and remove them from the stock market.
But can you explain what that means? If they become a public utility, that means it's open source and there's no blockage or censorship at all, and it's just everything goes?
If it's a public utility, well, you still can't yell fire in a movie theater, by the way. So
it would be First Amendment embodied, kind of.
Yes, it would be basically government controlled or government sanctioned certain things. So they can't just block willy nilly. They could only block for certain things, A, B, C, D. You know, Vitaly, Amit is legit.
Well, that's a good question. I wonder if the government would do a better job. Are we saying the government would now handle the censorship stuff? That doesn't sound like a better solution at all, actually.
I'm not saying it's a better solution, but if you don't want a public company controlling what's right and wrong, which is their right because they are a public company and it's their corporation, that's the way it is, you know.
I can understand that for sure, but the thing with Twitter is just it became enormous that the presidents around the world are using it. So now that's why it became like a little shady, a gray area. Like, oh my gosh, okay, yes, we're a public company, but now this is like the communication of the world, you know.
No, I agree. It's a hard issue. I'm not saying this is an easy issue. But I just don't like going after corporations to do and tell them what they have to do. Isn't that China?
Yeah. I think this is the problem, right? So Twitter started off as a small company. No one gave a shit about it. Became super big. The whole world, I think there's 6,000 tweets a second, right? They use it as kind of like a public utility to get information out there. The problem is when it gets that big, but it's still controlled by a central authority, that central authority makes the decisions. Now, I philosophically disagree with Jack, because I don't understand how you can decentralize something that, like, let's say 1 billion people use. Like at some level, there's got to be some board of directors making, that's where communism makes sense, right? You can't have democracy everywhere. You got to have a top-down structure to get shit done. Otherwise, companies aren't going to innovate. How are you going to get new features? How are you going to get new products? All that stuff. But the flip side is then those people make the decisions around the type of content that's allowed on the platform. And I think that's where the only balance is hoping those people have Elon's sort of mentality. Because if they don't have Elon's mentality, then they're going to have Jack's mentality, which was censorship. Like, I guess here's the question. Do you think Jack could have stopped the censorship when he was CEO? Or do you think there were forces bigger than Jack controlling the censorship?
I always took Jack as the bad guy, personally. I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast twice. Did you see? I thought. Yes, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
But it doesn't make sense because he's so decentralized Bitcoin freedom now. So, like, what happened in 2 years? It doesn't seem like the same person.
Well, he's still a person, and he's still, I would think that he has ideological thoughts, agendas, political thoughts, agendas. Everyone sways to one side or another. So he was just swaying to the side of his team, was my take, you know. And look, those two he went on Joe Rogan, if no one knows, this is maybe 3-4 years ago. He went on once. Everyone got mad at Joe Rogan, like, you didn't press him enough, you left him off the hook, because Joe was asking about the censorship. Jack sort of brushed it off, and then everyone smashed Joe. They're like, Joe, what is that? Like, people are censored all the time and you just let him off the hook. So Jack was nice enough to come back on Joe Rogan, and he brought a lady, I forget her name, she was high up in the management. Yeah, exactly. And she spoke a lot, but I didn't buy much of what they were saying. Like, she was giving reasons and it sounded like excuses. It didn't. And the Tim Pool and Joe Rogan brought Tim Pool there to sort of question.
It's 5 minutes. Let's watch it real quick. It'll give us some context.
Some context. Yeah, go ahead.
I got it right here. Okay, let me know if you guys can't hear it.
What has been the one thing that came up that was perhaps the most controversial? Like, I know my friend Sam Harris was trying to get you guys to ban Donald Trump. He was saying, if you follow your terms of service.
I just did a podcast with him actually as well. Should come out today or tomorrow.
He's
this was before they banned him. This was what was
this?
This is 2019. Okay, 2019.
He's a fascinating guy, Sam Harris. I love him to death. But what he was trying to do was like saying, hey, he's threatening nuclear war. Like, he's saying, hey, Korea, my bombs are bigger than your bombs. Like, what else does the guy have to do to get you to remove him from the platform? When you guys saw that, what was your reaction to that? And was there an internal discussion about actually banning the president of the United States?
Well, so two things there. One, it was the context that presidents of this country have used similar language in different mediums. They use it on radio. They use it on television. It's not just through Twitter. And even if you were to look at the presidency of Obama, it wasn't exactly the same tone in this exact same language, but there were threats around the same country. And we have to take that context into consideration. So the second thing is that we need the most controversial aspect of our rules and our terms of service is probably this clause around public interest and newsworthiness, where powerful figures or public figures might be in violation of our terms of service, but the tweet itself is of public interest.
Yes.
There should be a conversation around it. And that is probably the thing that people disagree with the most. And where we have a lot of internal debate. But we also have some pretty hard lines. If we had a global leader, including the President of the United States, make a violent threat against a private individual, we would take action. We always have to balance that with, like, is this something that the public has interest in? And I believe generally the answer is yes. It's not going to be in every case, but generally the answer is yes, because we should see how our leaders think and how they act.
And essentially
that informs voting. That informs the conversation. That informs whether we think they're doing the right job, or we think that they should be voted out.
Well, it's very important to see how someone uses that platform, and when someone uses it the way he uses it, and then becomes president and continues to use it that way, that's when people are like, "What?"
He's been consistent. I think he joined in 2009, 2012, and you look at all of his tweets all the way back then, and it's pretty consistent to today.
Yeah, I mean, he likes to insult people on Twitter. It's fun for him.
He does.
It's just, I never thought he would keep doing it. I thought once he became president, maybe he'd just lock it down, try to do a good job for the country, and then, after 4 years or 8 years, just go back to his old self. Fuck you, fuck the world, fuck this.
Yeah.
But no, he's just, it's just, in one way, it's hilarious. See, as a comedian, I think it's awesome because it's so hilariously stupid. It's so preposterous that he even has the time to talk about Jeff Bezos's affair and the fact that he got caught with the National Enquirer getting text messages and calls him Jeff Bozo. Like, don't you have shit to do, man?
Yes.
But as a comedian, I am a gigantic fan of folly, almost against my better judgment. I like watching. I watch.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I missed the comedy of Trump. I'm going to give it that. He was funny, dude.
I think right there we're seeing a very like a genuine reaction from Jack saying we're trying not to censor him because we want his demeanor to at least be publicly shown. I guess when that January 6th thing happened and he was compelling people to go protect the vote or whatever, that's what pushed the edge for them.
I'm going to chime in. I'm Canadian, so my vote counts a little less here, but
you can't even talk right now.
Was the January 6th thing, is it official across the board that he incited violence, or is that still disputed?
Well, it's 50% across the board and 50% not across the board.
Okay, so you know, you had 80 million people that voted for him that don't want him banned from Twitter. So should we still ban him from Twitter for this January 6th thing, which is still divided?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any point. I believe in capitalism. Twitter is a free company. If they didn't ban him, I'd be fine with that. If they ban him, I'm fine with that. If they ban me, I might not like it, but honestly, it's their company.
Yeah, and we just got to hope they have good guidelines so that.
Yeah. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I want good guidelines, but at the end of the day, I believe more in the way America does business than I do in other countries the way they do business. And capitalism, for all its flaws, works pretty well. Okay, I hope we're all sitting here agreeing that capitalism works 100%, pretty well.
100%. But then an American pride point is free speech.
And by the way, I'm Russian. Okay, just so you know.
Okay, great. But the capitalism, America loves capitalism. America loves free speech. So I guess the problem here is that they're sort of intersecting, and we're trying.
Well,
to
it conflicts because if a capitalist doesn't want free speech on their platform, they have the freedom to get rid of free speech. That's why you just gotta hope. That's why Google's motto is "Don't be evil," right? Because they know how much information they control. It's just going to the decentralized. I don't get how you get the same level of platform network effects like Twitter does on a decentralized way. If it happens, I'll believe it when I see it. But I don't get how you get 1 billion people to use something that's decentralized.
Well, I think we are going there, by the way. If we're looking out 10, 20 years, that we are going towards that direction. That's
maybe towards finance, not to social apps. I don't see that coming.
I do. I see a need for this discussion needs that to happen eventually. And I think if there's a big problem building up over the next decade of this, exactly what we're talking about, that luckily Ethereum network will finally be ready to scale at that point. And I think we would have something very similar to
Twitter. See it. It's not that I don't see it. It's just a question of my basic argument is content platforms need an algorithm to get people discovered. Otherwise, there's no value to the content platform. If it's decentralized, Emmanuel, who decides the algorithm?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't wrapped my head around this decentralized platform. I haven't thought it through. Let me ask you this.
It makes sense to me. The social stuff, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Since we're on the Adia Q1 earnings call, how would Adia handle this? How would they have handled this?
Adia would work really hard to make a phenomenal algorithm that's as equal but also as strong as possible. So like Chris in the chat says, doesn't matter if it's decentralized or not. If it's awesome, people will use it. I agree with you, Chris. My question is to make any platform awesome. It's a simple question. When you use it, do you find something good to watch, listen, text, whatever? And that is determined by an algorithm. Let's not be confused here. An algorithm puts shit in front of you. Like I was on YouTube the other day. I refreshed it 3 times. I couldn't find a good video. I was like, fuck it. I don't feel like watching YouTube today. I was like, they couldn't give me one good video that captured my attention. And it's YouTube we're talking about,
okay,
right?
So you're confusing something, and I just want to clarify it. Okay, the algorithm, that could be on an app. That's fine. But the thing is, the difference about being decentralized is that no one can ban someone like Trump on that general decentralized platform, meaning you might not be able to easily find him. He won't be in the front feed because someone will have an app that runs through this all the stuff and says exclude these people. That's going to happen. But anyone who wants to actually listen to that person, subscribe to their feed. It'll be in the app too.
Why is that not Twitter? Why is that literally not Twitter?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, no. The difference now is when Twitter blocks you, you're nowhere anymore. They've erased you. You're erased from existence. That's not the way this works on the blockchain. And I don't want to go into
that. You can't have both. You can't have both. You can't have an algorithmic feed that's curated by a decentralized ledger. And I get the part of like the person gets blocked and you have to.
The algorithm is not decentralized. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying people are building their own apps on the decentralized platform, on the blockchain. But Trump or whoever else will be allowed to post anytime he wants. forever to eternity, and you're allowed to pull that feed anytime you want, forever to eternity. But the difference is the algorithm will not push him, and they cannot block him. And if they do, there's another app that can access the same blockchain and give you Trump all day long.
Okay, we'll get back to that in a second. What's up, Sean? Sean has joined the chat, everybody. Sean from Invest Live. Sean, I'm hit you with a question real quick. If we make a decentralized version of Twitter and Trump joins that, he cannot be blocked because it's decentralized. There's no central authority determining who gets blocked or who doesn't get blocked. But my question is, how do you think, given you're into crypto, you're into Bitcoin, you're into data analytics, how do you think a decentralized platform can create a good user experience in terms of meaningful content for a person to be able to consume if there's not sort of a centralized algorithm determining the flow of information on that platform? Do you think it's possible?
What a way to jump in. So I was just reading books to a 7-year-old, and I'm going right into the fire. So here's the problem, right? Is we are approaching this as if what we are today is what the endpoint or the output is going to look like from the blockchain and the technology being built on it. So the problem is to think in terms of what something is today versus what it can be tomorrow is sort of what the challenge is here. So forget out for a second of like how you'd use that to create anything. I think that you have to step away and think in terms of like what an algorithm is today versus what it would be on a different platform, right? Are we talking about linear regression or logistical regression, or are we running some kind of a Python model here, right? That's not the right question. The question becomes, how do you find a way to maybe allow a community based on a voting system on the blockchain to perhaps to help to self-regulate, right?
Right.
Self-regulation has to have some built-in protocols, perhaps, and maybe that's the better way to do it. Because I think there's such a fine line between, really simply put, there's a fine line between what I want to be exposed to, what I want to have exposed to me, and how I want that material to get to me, right? And I think that the problem is the way we do things today is we leverage a lot of attribute-based modeling where we think about things in terms of buckets. We build scores between those buckets, and we try to see where everyone falls into the middle and which directionality we should apply to them with an algorithm. The issue with a matching algorithm is that there's so much inadvertent bias built in that then we've now had to create ethical AI models. And those ethical AI models allow for the ease of use to pull out certain types of data automatically. Could be identifiers around gender, around pay, around location, could be anything. The key, I think, to the approach with the blockchain is to think of it less as being truly transformational and more controllable by the end users. That's the one thing we don't have in today's models. And I don't know if you guys have talked about any of these things yet in this call, but I think about it in terms of the power of my voice to impact what I'm getting to come my way versus
why is that not just Twitter? If I like something, Twitter's going to show me more of the stuff.
I'll tell you why, because you're already liking what you've been told to like. You have no say over it.
But I don't know. If I type in a hashtag and I find a hashtag and I follow
an example.
Like,
well, Amit, give us an example.
Well, let's say so the what is the sports, the Final Four were on, or the the March Madness was on yesterday. Let's say I don't like basketball, but March Madness is trending because it's like a global or at least an American topic. And so you're scrolling through Twitter, you see March Madness, you click on it, you see that Duke won. You click on Duke, you see the guy who scored the most points, you click on his profile, you realize that he has a good chance to go into the NBA, then you start going down that rabbit hole of learning about this. But now this person has made an imprint on your life in some capacity, and they have a sliver of your attention because of the fact that Twitter was able to take something trending and put it on a home feed, and then you were able to find it. I don't see what's necessarily wrong with that. I don't see why you need to be interested in basketball for Twitter to like, I'm not interested in basketball. It came up on my feed. Now I'm more interested in this guy who might go to the NBA. I feel like that's good.
You just applied right and wrong to an algorithm, which in and of itself is incorrect in the first place, right? So like you're approaching it as like, was this the right thing to come to me, and why isn't it the right thing? I think it's completely a disparate way to think about it, where in terms it's really more about like the attributes that Twitter knows about you are only what you've theoretically shared with them through a handful of clicks, and now you're overwhelmingly being driven towards a certain outcome based on a lack of attribute about who you are as a person. So I'll give you an example. If I was going to start, if the four of us were going to start a company tomorrow and we wanted to connect a shared marketplace, I don't know what it is, content creators to providers of technology for content creators, right? And we want to act as the marketplace in the middle. The reason we would be able to do it better than most people is because we might want to go in and understand what are all of the attributes that I'm interested in. Not 10 questions, not 20 questions. I want to understand everything about all of your interests, as much data as possible. And then amongst those vendors, I don't just want to see price, number of users, how hard it is to get it to stand up and work. I want to start to understand everything about it, years of experience, right? Like, so just keep going deeper and deeper into the attribution rabbit hole, and you get a tighter and better matching algorithm that ties more to your exact preferences. Full stop. You know what the problem with that is? What if those are not the preferences that I really ultimately want? What if it's something, a totally different experience, a totally new thing? What if every year I go on vacation to the same place for 20 years? And maybe I try different hotels.
You can never solve. At some level, the company has to guess attributes in the beginning, right? Like, they can't be perfect in the very beginning.
Totally agree. I totally agree. It's based on what you click in the beginning. But I think there's deepening layers of, excuse me, there's deepening layers of secondary attributes, tertiary attributes, right? There's derivative attributes. And it's really tough to make a platform that scales to billions of people that can also deliver content in an efficient way with a high degree of efficacy, which you will not get with this kind of a matching algorithm, because it's just too much data. But the difference, and I'm jumping in here and fully into the water coming out of a book here about Pete the cat. But
I used to read that
just in case anyone was
with
curious. You know, Pete the cat loves to dance, but he doesn't dance like a turtle or like a sloth, right? Because Pete the cat has his own dance. And I think that's the issue with a lot of modern algorithms is we have to leverage historic math based on historic understanding of data, based on data structures that are easily accessible because of scale. If you stepped away from scale for a second and didn't have limitations around efficacy and efficiency, I think you can build lots of different things in a much differentiated way. So I need to fully step back and understand, what are you guys talking about in the first place?
Okay, first of all, Palantir solves this.
I will agree.
No, I mean, we were talking about this idea of like, so we got into the Twitter censorship argument, and we're like, all right, decentralized Twitter, Trump can't get banned. I'm like, all right, cool, good for censorship. But then the question has become, can a decentralized platform scale at the levels of hundreds of millions if there's not a centralized curation mechanism?
Can I say, listen, guys, you're making it so complicated. The blockchain.
No, I don't think you get it yet, bro. I don't think you get it.
I do get it. I do get it. But in fact,
all right, explain how simple it is to make
20 years of engineering. I get it.
Explain.
Not blockchain particularly, but okay. So I keep going back to the whole point is to decentralize the actual content, not to decentralize the algorithm. I keep saying it. This is very easy. There's going to be multiple apps.
How does that make sense? How does that make sense?
Okay, look.
Every video, like just for context, when you upload a video to YouTube, YouTube theoretically owns that video. So I don't get how you decentralize the video from that.
Well, I'm not saying there's not problems to solve, first of all. I'm saying picture a future in 10, 20 years, okay? Just picture that future. Forget about the current. We're talking about limited space. Where do we get the server farms? Ignore that for a second, okay? I know that's a lot to ignore, but ignore that for the second. The blockchain itself just stores the pieces of information or links to the pieces of information that you want to access, wherever, even on a public server, wherever it is. And it's verifiable by everybody. That's the point. So you can have a Twitter app that has its own algorithm that runs through and blocks Trump. And then you have your other app where people say, like Truth Social, they won't actually be getting different data. They'll be getting the same data feed off of the public stuff, and including that Trump stuff that you want to see, because that's the app that services
you. Irrelevant if you don't have an algorithm that curates it. That's why
this algorithm. This is ridiculous. You're treating the algorithm like it's the holy grail here. Twitter sucks at the algorithm. They can't even monetize their
algorithm. But my Twitter feed is awesome. I found Emmanuel from it. I found Sean from it.
And sorry, and that's what Sean was saying when he was. But Sean, that was important what you said. You said that we're liking what they tell us to like, or what we think we like. Like, that was a huge statement. You're really saying like we almost have like no free will once we enter the Twitter app.
Well, you know, imagine you think you have access to a realm of things, right? But your access is only as much as your eyes can see. There's a lot more out there beyond your known universe, right? So you might think you can see everything that exists, but it's still within the realm of what they can reasonably put in front of you. And then your selection is now based on a finite area of things to like. But just I want to call it a rebuttal for a second here. Is there a block feature on Twitter? Can I block people if I don't like them?
Exactly. I said this before, by the way, Sean. I love that you're chiming in. You mentioned it before when we were talking about the censorship. I said, by the way, before we start banning people, we could block people, we could hide people, and unfollow people. So I love where you're going with this. So yes,
that was all I was going to say was like, I think there's a world where you almost can have both. The blockchain helps to understand that I own the content that I create, not curate, rather. I create that content. It's a historical fact that it is mine. It is recorded and audited somewhere by other nodes. At the same time, if there's people I don't like, I can easily just block them. In fact, I mean, I don't do that, but like for sure, if someone's really driving me crazy, I could easily do that as well, right? So I think that that's something to call out. And it doesn't have to be, I know you guys are using Trump as an example, but it could be anyone. Like, you know, if you don't want to hear what one side says in an argument, just block them. You know, that's your version of free speech on a platform that you don't own. And then you can always go back in time and perhaps and see what's out there because we've recorded it back to those users. But I also think it speaks to the fact that there's other reasons why you want to have these things that exist. When you talk, you guys probably talked about a lot of this as well, but like, who's to say, number one, what Elon even is likely or could do? Number one, who's to say? Okay. But number two, let's just say there's an edit button and now you can go back and change things. Well, you're not changing anything. You're not going into the data warehouse and changing the data. You're just changing the visualization in current time. Everything's still recorded as a keystroke in the system. And I think, Vitaly, unless I'm totally missing your point, the beauty of the blockchain built into that process is it's going to track the changes, make it easy to see them, and you can track back to who says what, where, and why, etc.
Well, not only that, I'm saying Twitter doesn't have to own that whole stream of data.
Understood.
As well.
Understood. I got you now. They don't even have to be responsible to even censor it, you're saying, essentially.
They just present whatever they want to present the same way. The difference is everyone has access to that stream.
Got it.
Yeah, but again, like this is
it's the way you store data. One way right now, Twitter has servers in their hard drive. They go, delete, we don't want Trump, right? Obviously, they save it somewhere, but they can just go delete. You can't do that in the blockchain. You can't just say delete that guy. You can't do that.
That's fine. But again, that stream of data, if it is not curated, there is no value to the app. That's just my point that I
agree that unless someone comes up with something compelling, that's still going to be an issue. I agree with you there, but I'm assuming that, first of all, imagine, okay, I'll give you a world where Truth Social doesn't have to create all the data from scratch and they can just access Twitter's stream.
Yes.
That's literally what I'm talking about.
Right.
If they had access to Twitter's stream, their whole history, and that's what the blockchain is. If they had that.
Yes.
And Twitter couldn't control that access, which they can right now.
Good point. Yeah.
That's a big difference by itself.
But Truth Social I agree. Truth Social only succeeds if they hire fancy engineers to make an algorithm that Truth Social.
They still have to do. You still have to do things.
Centralized then.
No. Okay, you're confusing the data, which is not centralized, with the app, which is. I think those are two different things.
I'm not. My only point is I don't think the app has any value. If your tweet that got deleted on Twitter but now on Truth Social can't be deleted, is in some block in some metaverse. If it's not curated, if it's not shown to like 1,000 people, you got no impressions on that tweet. Why the hell does that tweet matter? It's like speaking to the wall.
I think there's a point of demarcation though, right? Where like, are we talking about speech or are we talking about a business? Because Twitter is a business in the business of making revenue that has to source what you want to look at. So you come back to the platform to look at ads. Yeah. The blockchain is indifferent in theory. I know it's, there'll be business around it, but in theory at its core level, it is a non-redactable truth of facts over time recorded forever in theory. So I think that's where the differential point comes in here a bit, is just like separating the algo out for a second, because Vitaly, I think we're now on the same page. What it's saying is like, look, yes, there's some centralized system, but it's fully transparent and I can always go back in time and see anything, whether they want me to or not. Right. So like one of the things that gets real popular every year where we have major political events is always like, oh yeah, well back in 2010, you said this. Here it is in writing. And then people are like, I got hacked. I don't know what happened. It wasn't me. This, that, and the other thing. And it's like, so there are systems and people out there who are like recording this shit, but.
And that's what happens when you mess with us.
Fuck you. I'm definitely died. He's like, but, and then YouTube was like, nah, we can't have
that. Palantir software fails again.
Admit the algorithm can be decentralized due to it being agreed upon by the. How does this make sense? You piped. I don't mean to be mean here. The entire blockchain, the entire DAO cannot.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm talking about the you piped. Oh, you don't see the comments.
Oh, I see it. Okay, you piped. Yes, admit the algo.
How do we all as a blockchain agree to the algo that is now decentralized? Like, is there a Discord poll with 300 million people? Like, I just don't get, and I'm trying to be open-minded because I want to know if this is possible.
It is possible, but the problem is you don't want to run a lot of computation on the actual blockchain. So he's getting to maybe 50 years from now, you want to run, we're talking about computation on the blockchain. And that's really difficult.
About you got censored. Sean, don't censor me, bro.
You got censored.
As soon as I said it.
So you can do this, but I don't think that's going to happen for even much longer than actually just storing references and links and pieces of data on the blockchain. I think that's the easy problem to solve, the pieces of data. Running actual algorithms on the blockchain with the expensiveness of it, that's a whole other, that's 100 years from now. Let me put it this way.
Or maybe 10 years, who knows?
Well, it's a utility question, right? Like what is the utility of building something on that? I think, Vitaly, unless I'm totally missing you again here, that's the point you're making, right? Like the reason you say it's 100 years is it's like, well, what am I going to do with it? It's a recorded history, but it has no value in its current form other than to say that it is a recorded auditable history, right?
And verifiable. So something's verifiable and recorded, we can look back. Like, for example, I keep going back to Twitter blocks Trump. Another app that wants to listen to Trump now accesses the same stream of data because it's not on Twitter's servers. And then they could get all that feed. And even if it's 10 people, he's no longer censored, actually. Whether people want to listen to him and they want to move to that app, that's up to them. But the data itself is available. That's important.
Emmanuel, let me ask you a question. If Twitter did do that, let's say they decentralized their data, not their algo, their data, do you think that puts them at a competitive disadvantage as a business, or they look better in the light of the
that's
public?
A good question. Yeah, they look better, but it's probably not business friendly towards themselves, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
They're not helping themselves as a business. It looks good. It looks good that they're sort of being an open book, but like Vitaly was saying, they're a business at the end of the day. But speaking of which, on the business sense, are they even good? They're not. They're not really.
They're not even good at business.
Yeah, Sean, why can't Twitter monetize like Facebook? Why is Twitter having such a hard time that, like, if I retweet Dunkin' Donuts tweet, Twitter's a search engine for words. Like, oh shit, Sean retweeted a Dunkin' Donuts tweet. We know Sean likes Dunkin'. Like the data they should get on ads should be like 17,000 times better than any other platform because you're literally typing words, right? Why can't they monetize that well?
I think the profile that we create about ourselves on Twitter is very different than the profiles that we have created over time on Facebook. So their depth of data on an individual is at a totally different level. I could have 10,000 connections on Twitter easily, but maybe on Facebook, I've got 300 friends. They're people who are from a local area. They're people I know. They're somehow related to me, interrelated to me, a third party to me. But in theory, they're all real people who are really connected in some way, shape, or form. I've got pictures, I've got timelines, I've got kids, I've got family, I've got a wedding, right? They can start to build a really deep profile around who you are, what you are, and what value they can deliver to you. Also, I don't know if you guys have really been in the ad systems. So like I've been deep into all these. When I want to build, if I'm going to build an ad on Facebook, I can do a lot of really good segmentation. It's not as good as it used to be, but like you can do really good, tight segmentation. Same thing for Google, right? Google ads, you can get pretty tight as well. Again, nothing's as much as it used to be, and for good reason. But on Twitter, like I don't get ads for anything. I get ads for completely random, stupid things that, in
fact, when I see a promoted tweet, I'm like, this guy's a loser. Why is he promoting?
But so maybe they should go by another stream. They should probably forget this ad thing or put it to the side.
No one's paying for Twitter, bro. No one's paying for Twitter. That's my thing.
I would pay for your stuff. I would pay to get special access to most of your tweets. You think I would live in a world where I'm not getting your tweets?
Let me ask you, have you joined his Patreon? Exactly. Have you joined his Patreon?
Of course. I tried to be number one. I was number 11 again. 11 subscriber, 11 Patreon.
So Sean, your point is like the level of attention someone has on Twitter is not enough for the advertisement to suit it to be convertible.
There is a really good documentary. This is going to take you guys into the history books called The Corporation years ago. If you haven't seen it, you should look into it. It's probably free and broken up into parts on YouTube. It's called The Corporation. Mm-hmm. And what they did is they looked at the many different factors. It was sort of like a bit of a hit piece on business, but there was a really particular good part that was about the level of marketing and advertising done from your children all the way up until they become adults, and how much they know, learn, and can deliver exactly what they want at the right time, even in disparate systems like a TV. Now you think about that like they were able to hit those kids with the right ads on TV, optimize the amount of whining they would do with their parents to get them to say yes and bring them to a Toys R Us, okay? Now they're in front of them 24/7. They understand what they're watching, where they're watching, how long they're watching, what those videos are largely about. God forbid they hit a like button. Now you have 1,000 times the relevance to that ad that they're going to now service to them. This is the same thing on Facebook. They're not advertising to a Facebook user. They're advertising to Sean, who has pictures of his kids maybe, or a wife and a date of a wedding and single, not single, complicated, whatever all the different things are, right? That we openly put out there.
Right.
It's a very different experience. When you think about the experience on Twitter, to your point, like, it's just scrolling.
Well, it's 1,000 strangers interconnecting as opposed to friends and family. So you're not going to have the same level of data. And in your video, I don't know if we want to play a clip, but you gave why a bull case for Facebook, actually, basically, that Facebook has all of these interconnections. They're one of the few, and Google too, of course. So
I made that video with Sean.
You did. Today you released some Twitter video.
Yeah, I was talking about Twitter and Facebook.
And basically, you literally gave the bull case for Facebook, maybe not even knowing you did so.
No, I did. I knew I was doing that. Sean, are you bullish on Facebook at these prices?
So this is really funny. I've got.
Why did I bring this up?
30 seconds on Facebook. The day they went IPO, I had put in a pretty sizable order for them. And
give us the number, man. Give us the number. How much did you drop?
1 million.
Well, so it didn't matter. Nothing went through. See, this is how I know how old you guys are. So for anyone who's around for the Facebook IPO.
I did that. I bought the IPO and twice by accident.
So ironically, exactly. I thought I didn't buy, bought again. Wow. So we did the same thing. That's amazing. So what happened was the market couldn't handle the volume. Everything crashed. Buy orders didn't go through. No one knew what they bought, if they bought, or if they needed to buy more. So it has been a mess since then. Putting all that bullshit aside, listen, no one does it better. I mean, everyone says they don't use it. No one wants Facebook. It's useless. Let me tell you something. If I'm opening up a business tomorrow, I'm advertising on Facebook.
Or
not
Instagram.
on Twitter. Yeah. Well, Instagram too, right? Same thing. I'm not doing it on Twitter. I'm certainly not trying to do it on TikTok, if you even can do it on TikTok, which is a whole nother use case.
On TikTok, you could hit the ADD crowd.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Maybe that's a different service we're providing on there. OnlyFans can probably advertise on TikTok, that's for sure. But
I want to know why Amit's not on Instagram.
I'm going to join Instagram once I do things that are necessary for my. Basically, after I raise, that's when I'm joining Instagram. I just decided. So this is
even on a personal level. Why don't you use it?
Well, he didn't finish his Facebook rant. I wanted to hear a positive Facebook rant, and you guys cut it off. All right.
Sorry, this is what about it. I want to know. Do you use Facebook itself? Do you use Instagram?
I used it for a while, and then when I was trying to like build a brand, this is before YouTube. I was trying to like talk about I realized Instagram is pointless unless you have a content strategy team, meaning Instagram is trying to create a social graph between you and your friends. That's why I think TikTok is way better, because TikTok's showing you to strangers. To get organic discovery on Instagram, especially because they figure out ads and it's so mature, it's next to impossible. You start an account with 0 followers that you're lucky to get 10, over the next.
I just want to, by the way, my wife, just to bring up to your point, she started her business, and on Instagram, she gained 150,000 followers.
Wow.
Or mostly organically. I don't think she paid for much of anything. Well, she did advertise occasionally, but
a
lot of it was organically, especially the first 50,000, just building it on her business. So it's possible, and it happens. And how are you going to do that on TikTok? I have no idea.
TikTok, we can get that. That's a whole nother guy. TikTok, I've analyzed. TikTok is a great place to do that. But yes, it happens for some people. My point is, on Facebook, I started noticing that I was just I was caring about my friends way too much, caring about their lives, going through their stories way too much. And then the story feature, which is the biggest feature to build community on Facebook, I noticed I was putting a lot of time into that and getting very little ROI. So that's when I was like, screw this. I need a platform that gets me organic. I need to get in front of people. And that was YouTube for me. And then Twitter and TikTok, I think, will be in the future. But Instagram is, if you have a
why
base,
are you bullish? Why are you bullish on Facebook? I understand you think they're gonna, draw a lot of ad revenue, but you don't even use it. Does that not bother you?
Yeah, but 3 billion other
personally
people
using it. Yeah,
3 billion people use it.
I'll give you a real world example. My Facebook page for Invest to Live has 25,000 followers, and I get hundreds of messages a day in my inbox from a lot of people from all over the world who otherwise would have no idea what I am and what I do. And it's because the discovery just works better for me on there than it does on other platforms. And these are also people who are very interested in finance. And the questions aren't like, hey, I liked your video, or like, hey, you're fat, don't make any more videos, right? Get those too. But it's really stuff like, hey, look, I got one today. It was someone in a Southern African country who was like, look, I have no access to capital and I just don't know how to improve my life. And I was like, yeah, let's talk about it. Right. And the other thing too, to be fair, is I don't sell anything. There's nothing to buy. I don't ask for anything. So there's some degree of being genuine in all of this as well that matters, I think. But I can't get that level of connection on a Twitter, and on YouTube. It's you can get it, but it's very public. It's very much in the comments, and people don't want to connect like that. Facebook still has that very one-to-one business feel. That still feels like it's a connection versus like an interaction with a customer service person or something like that. That's just my take. I know people hate Facebook. I think a lot of people aren't into it. I mean, I'm yet to see any single piece of data that makes me think Facebook isn't in a bullish position. I don't know that I would want to hold a ton of shares with no hedge against it. That said, I mean, if you said it's either a yes or a no, I'm a yes on it, but only because I can't find a reason not to be. They've survived every major. I mean, guys, they've put Zuckerberg in front of Congress so many times. It's like a joke now. It's like a robot. Like I swear they just bring in a dummy, sit him there and just make his mouth go up and down to say yes, Senator.
That's what it looks like.
This is another reason Facebook's amazing. So this is dailypalantir.com. Facebook has provided me 3,000 sessions, 4,000 page views, 2,000 unique visitors, all from posting my articles in 3 Facebook groups about Palantir. Like, the groups thing is huge. They have millions of groups on these sub communities. There's a Palantir group with 2,000 people that will like 95% click on my articles because they care about Palantir. It's like, where else am I going to find that traffic?
Yeah. And the other good thing, if you want to get rid of your junk, they have a marketplace to get rid of all your junk.
That's true too.
Which is actually pretty amazing. I thought it was shit originally. I thought Craigslist was still in. Apparently Craigslist is going out the door and it's Facebook Marketplace, which I was shocked at.
You know, it's funny though, because when you look at like some of these, you start to think about how many social platforms are out there. Okay. Like, and it still comes back to the ones who are just able to successfully advertise and get people to click links. You know, to your point, whoever said that a minute ago, like Twitter has basically survived without me having any idea how they make money. I think about this all the time. Like people are like, oh, it's ads. It's like, I hear you. I'm not being down on them, but it's like,
have you ever clicked an ad on Twitter?
Never, ever.
I never scroll faster
Twitter gets
through
real
a
ads?
promoted tweet.
It's from like Netflix when they come out with a new movie. Netflix, they have like a branded hashtag. I think Twitter works for branding, but direct to consumer kind of like click to conversion, buy my stuff, Shopify, attach my pixel. I don't think Twitter does that at all.
But I think that's a great call out though. Like if the value of advertising on Twitter is merely awareness, that's it. Like,
how does this comment make sense? I don't get it. Like,
well, like I did a video today on Uber for over an hour.
Anthony, we're gonna block you.
You just got censored that. But like, in fairness to Anthony, right? Like, I've been hearing that since before the IPO.
Oh my God, it's so ridiculous. Every year, every year.
2 comments on my video. Uber's going bankrupt. They make no money. They make billions of dollars. Okay. Every single company out there, they're bankrupt. They're going under. They're going to be gone in a year. And then every year, like they come back and the numbers keep getting better and the growth keeps growing. Because fundamentally, the one mistake so many folks, and I'm only going to speak to the realm in like the US and Canada, we have it pretty good, right? Other parts of the world, guess what's tough? Connecting to people you know, getting a cell phone, doing your banking, getting a safe car to take you where you have to go, right? When we start to get outside of our bubble a bit and we realize like there are major, major things out there that make it very hard for other people to live a really good life. And these services do in fact provide a lot of it. Yep. So, you know, it's like anything. Like you could say, well, how does Google make money? No one clicks on their ads. Well, let's tear layer 1 off of Facebook, Twitter, Google, whoever. They're data companies, man. Like, yeah, they make their money with ads in theory, but like it's about awareness, it's about growth, it's about their ancillary products and how they integrate with each other. Because let's call it what it is, right? Like you almost can't have a business that doesn't have Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube or something.
Irrelevant. Right? You're irrelevant.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. And just to bring up Uber for a second, because he brought it up, I'm actually an Uber bull as well.
Yep.
And I think they're the only ones in this sort of logistics play, and everybody thinks they're just a little rideshare bullshit.
Oh, yes.
Car here. They don't understand how big this company is going to be. Not yet, and it's going to take a while to get there, but they are the only ones in the pole position, and they think Lyft is a competitor. Lyft is not a competitor to Uber, okay? Lyft is literally the car play, which I have shares of that too, but Uber is, and so to your point, basically, everyone's like, these companies are losing money hand over fist. Yes, in the interim, that's true. The same thing happened for all of these growth companies, right? And Palantir too. Is it a profitable company just yet?
Operationally, but not no.
You know what I'm saying? So the answer is no. Yep. The point is, we all know where it's going, that it's going to be there. It's whether you get a 10x or a 2x. That's really what we're discussing here, right?
You know, I want to just call this out because, like, I did a video last night with Chris Patel on Uber, and I did over an hour today on a deep dive into the numbers in their business. For ride sharing, they're the number one provider of ride sharing in 8 out of the 10 biggest markets globally. For delivery, they're number one in 7 out of 10. And in freight, they're now one of the biggest globally, period. So not only is their pie getting bigger, but their slices are getting bigger at the same time. And essentially what Uber has really become, not to take us off topic, but Uber's really become an all-weather company. They did better in the pandemic than in many other years from the delivery service. Think about that, right? Those people are not suddenly like, you know what? I'd rather go and wait in line at the grocery store. I want an $800 payment when I can take a ride down the street if I live in a major city. And if you really take the time, not you guys, but for anyone who's watching and thinking like, Facebook's garbage, totally cool. Don't invest in it. That's the great thing. You don't have to do that. Or if you're not sure, look at straddles, right? There's all kinds of plays to make when you're not sure, and there's better decisions for you in your portfolio. But there's always the rhetoric is always like bankrupt, out of business, gone, evil, the best. It's a 25x billion dollar. Like, these are just companies, and we invest in them by doing due diligence. This is the secret to all of this. It's just what it is, you know?
If you hate money, that's what I keep saying to everybody who's a hater. Don't invest in Facebook. That's it. That's fine.
I don't invest in Facebook, but it's not because I don't like them. It just doesn't. I don't need exposure in that sector.
Do you have S&P stock?
Do I have what?
Do you have a VOO, VTSAX, anything like that?
I have like a core portfolio.
So you have Facebook.
I don't have direct share of Facebook, but that's my point.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So in fun, I'm actually really glad you brought that up. By the way, this is something I actually bring up all the time too. Is someone would be like, I'm really heavy into like Tesla, but I also own a lot of like, SPY or VTI or whatever. And you're like, cool, man, you're so over indexed on something that you have no idea about because it's so heavily weighted in your indexes. And I think this speaks to the fact that like broad market exposure is the right thing for 90% of people out there, but 90% of people think they shouldn't be in broad sector indexes because they don't grow enough at 12% per year, which is amazing and a multimillionaire maker by the time you retire.
I had 2 questions, guys. One, I love this diversification versus concentration talk. It's fascinating to me, so we could stick to that. Or I wanted to ask, does autonomous driving threaten Uber at all, or are they gonna adapt and make it work?
Yeah,
they're gonna make it work for them.
Company to just kick their employees and their drivers that are making a living off Uber and then go autonomous. Because the CEO Travis, he was asked that question in 2017 by someone at TechCrunch, and he was just like, "Companies have to innovate." And the whole crowd started laughing because he basically was like, yeah, we're going to kick them off our platform once we have autonomous vehicles.
Wait. He said he's going to kick them off?
I'm going to follow you guys talk. I'm going to find the clip. This was such a good clip. I'm going to find it real quick.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to answer, Sean, but look, have you seen full self-driving videos? I mean,
I have a Tesla. I applied for beta. I'm waiting for it to come in on the FSD I have. Obviously not impressive. No, obviously not impressive. The original FSD.
And I have a Tesla too, and I have a second one. I actually have a Model Y. I have another Model Y in order. I have a Cybertruck on order. I'm a Tesla bull, and I have a lot of Tesla stock too. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I think they're gonna solve a full self-driving before Uber gets bigger? That's ridiculous. Like, Uber is going to be so much massive. Like, in the next 5 years, this full self-driving is going to take. All the bulls that we talk to, like Warren Redlick and all these other people, they're like, it's happening next year. Like, it's end of 2022, full self-driving. Like, this is a 5 to 10 year thing that's going to play out with logistics, with government regulation.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God, there's so many things that are going to happen that Tesla is not even in control of all of it. Even if they have it ready tomorrow, it's just not going to be there tomorrow. So I think Uber is going to be very fine, and I'm going to get my 5 to 10x. I'll exit. Tesla will come out with full self-driving. I'll get my 10x.
But you don't think Uber can adapt it, integrate it in? Is that a possibility?
Well, I think they will too. First of all, if Tesla is serious about releasing the software where people can integrate it, because they said they would license it. They said they would do that. So if that's going to happen, but that's not going to happen day one. So, but there's other companies. I don't know if you guys know Mobileye, Cruise.
Well, let's get on to that then. Vitaly, that was my second question. Concentration versus diversification. I prefer, what I've been saying is I prefer concentration, but the way I diversify is staying heavier in cash. I prefer choosing 2 to 3 stocks and staying diversified by having cash, and I don't own an index and more than that. So yourself, you're into lots of stocks and the indices as well?
I'm very diversified. So
for what reason, basically, is my question.
Well, we talk mostly about growth on the channel because people are interested in growth in 10Xs, right? But I have real estate, I have crypto, I have dividends,
you got startup.
And I have growth. I have a startup now with a MIT. I mean, at some point you want to protect your money, first of all. So I don't know what you're doing, but at some point when your Tesla stock 10Xs, what you want to do is buy some real estate, because that's the way you secure your family's generational wealth forever, like literally forever. Tesla's not going to do that for you. I'm sorry. So at some point, you have to transfer that wealth over to something stable, let's say dividend stocks and real estate. And I think Sean has a whole real estate series that I told him he should do.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up his video right now. It's only 50 seconds, so we're going to watch it. And
we should watch it. But yes, you have to diversify eventually. It depends on where you are at. If you just started investing, I'm not saying diversify, first of all.
So, and what's your reasoning for liking Bitcoin? Because you mentioned properties, and a lot of the Bitcoin guys, or some Bitcoin guys.
Sometimes you got to roll the dice.
Oh, you see that as like a lottery ticket?
I think I won the lottery.
Exactly what he's saying.
Not more than that. Not more than that.
Back in 2012.
I've been mining even crypto 2012, and I messed up for years and years, and I've been in crypto a long time.
But
it is rolling the dice.
You appreciate anything philosophical about it? Is there
Nope.
Don't get me wrong. I like what they're talking about, decentralization, but at the end of the day, it's all about money. This is an investment for me. I'm not trying to be a maximalist in this.
Sean, before we get to real estate, how much crypto exposure? I mean, not how much, but like, are you exposed to crypto, or are you like in it?
Yeah, I started mining in 2016. I worked on Stellar nodes at IBM in 2016.
Stellar. Oh my God. That's why I invested in Stellar, that piece of junk, because of IBM was involved in 2016, 2017, whenever it was.
It's sort of so ironic. Back then, they proved out that it actually works. It was for very specific projects, and people don't always understand that. So yeah, so like, I'll just speak to that at a high level. Step one, a lot of times, is when you're starting out with very little, there's an urge to like go all in on something, but that something isn't worth the risk. I know people are going to hate hearing this, but I'm going to tell you, like, when people talk about concentration, I mean, like, hey, I started my own company and I'm all in, and I own and control the output. I sold my company when I was 26, and because of that,
what was the company, Sean? Real quick, what
come again?
What did the company do? Just real quick.
So we had built sort of like a CRM system with analytics on top of Microsoft Access at that time, and we're able to apply it in sort of like a retail setting. Well, not exactly, but
yeah. Otherwise, Sean would not be talking to us if he built.
Not quite. I still would talk to you guys, but so that was sort of like going all in and putting myself in real time. You know, I was early 20s, right? Like, went all in and put it all on the line, and it worked out. And the one thing I would really say is that is my equivalency of like all in. Now, if I look at the overall portfolio build, so keep in mind, like, I hold like professional certificates in like alternative assets, in market operations, and capital markets, and in blah blah, all this bullshit. And when you think about the way I break it up, like, I've got a core portfolio of equities. This is a mixture of individual stocks, indexes, and ETFs. That's the broadest part of my portfolio. That's the 401k. That's also a lot of my main portfolio. I own quite a bit of real estate as well. I own probably maybe 3 or 4% in crypto, but that's 95 is BTC, 5 is Ether. And then I also am in a number of private companies as an investor. So like, I've been angel investing for a really long time. So I'm in a bunch of companies. Those fizzle and die all the time and come back, and et cetera. Could be in the market for another one. Depends what I hear in the near term. And what it allows me to do is take a lot of really good chances, but also have a lot of really good opportunities. So like, I also look at it in terms of like, I need to have a core strength in my portfolio and what we call like all weather. When the markets go down, I'm good. When the markets go up, I'm good. No matter which direction it goes, I'm winning.
But I have to interrupt there. When we saw COVID, when we saw March 2020, it seemed like everything went down regardless.
Yep.
So that all weather thing, does it truly exist?
I made more money than God did that day, man. I had silver, I had gold, I had puts married to my positions. So I cashed out.
Bill Ackman. He pulled a nice Ackman.
Well, I don't talk about it. That's the difference.
He pulled a Bill Ackman.
Yeah, my boy Billy, Big Willie style.
Bill said, "Close the damn country." Print my puts.
And I'll tell you
right
what,
now.
you made a lot of money on that.
Print my puts. That's what he said.
Wait, so Sean, in terms of concentration, if I'm not getting you wrong, your argument is all in only means when you're going for like a company, you're building something, you're all in. Otherwise, you think you should never be all in on like one or two stocks.
Well, when you say you're all in on a portfolio of 3 stocks, just whatever, right? Name the 3 you love, okay? You have no control.
He's like Tesla.
and by the way, I'm not saying it's not okay. What I'm saying is if you look historically at making it to retirement with multiple millions of dollars, there are proven ways to do it. And it's not picking a stock. It's having a diversified portfolio, heavy on a number of blue chip stocks, etc. The change that's happened is if I go to work and I talk to folks who are 10 years younger than me, right? I'm at your age group. And I say, hey, listen, these mutual funds are returning 11% per year. Make sure they're in your 401k. You can retire really wealthy. And they're like, 11%? Bitcoin went up 12% this weekend. And I'm like, yeah, it did. And that's why I'm in it. But within my overall portfolio is a section that's for speculation. That speculation might be things like that's where I do all my options work. That's where I hold my crypto. That's where
I got to stop here because let's say you have $1 million portfolio, you're comfortable with 100,000 being speculation. If I only have 20 grand and I'm trying to get to $1 million, do you think that's where people have the short-term logic of, well, I don't have 2,000 to allocate to speculation. I need to be all speculative so I can get higher returns. So is it a question of the amount you actually are starting with that forces people to go all in?
It's a great question. Think about portfolios in terms, I'm going to really simplify this down to nothing. Think aggressive, moderate, and passive, right? Passive on a risk perspective, right? Aggressive might mean like traditionally has meant 100% equities, right? This includes mutual funds and ETFs. A moderate might be like 80% equities, 10% cash, 10% bonds. And a passive is more like 50% equities, 30 and a 20. Okay, these are like traditional financial models for how to build wealth over the long term. And the beauty of any of these is because you're investing in broad-based indexes, and Vitaly mentioned this a few minutes ago, VTSAX, et cetera, you are getting exposure to Tesla and to Palantir and to Uber and to Facebook, but also J&J and 3M and all the other really great companies that are growing and paying huge dividends out too, right? So all I'm saying is if you have only 20K, okay?
That kind of is, would you agree with this, Sean?
If your entire portfolio is 20K, then your greatest return is going to be through increasing your earning power.
That is true. Yeah.
Earnings and savings. That's a great call out there. I think that's an excellent call out that you Pipe just put in there. Your focus in the beginning of your investment, your capital appreciation mode is not what you're going to earn on 20K. It's what you earn at work, the extra hours you can put in. If you're in sales, it's selling more. It's doing the side jobs, right? That's where you earn more and you save as much as you can from that. And that 20 becomes 30 and then 40 and then 50. But that's not through earnings, right? Vitaly, you know where I'm going with this, right? That's through compounding the work you're trading for your dollars before those dollars can have a big enough army to build their own army.
So I do have a response.
I want to cut
something.
Go ahead.
No, you go. We've been taking up too much time, man.
Okay. When you mentioned the speculation, 10%, it's sort of the spirit of why I created my channel. Is that with just my experience that I had with Tesla, and maybe some people want to call it a lucky stroke. I don't think it is, and that's the big difference. People were saying it's risky, it's speculative, but I didn't see that. I didn't see it as risky at all. I felt like I knew what I was doing. It was clear to me. So that's the difference. That I don't like when people use the term risky and speculative. I declare that it's our job as investors to find the greatest return with a minimal risk. And for me in 2016, it was Tesla, for example. So I feel like everyone else could be doing the same sort of thing, not saying, oh, I'm buying X, Y, or Z because it's speculative and I'm buying a lottery ticket. It's like,
well, you are buying a lottery ticket. You did buy a lottery ticket, by the way. I know you don't want to believe it, but Tesla 2016 to 2018 was hemorrhaging money and about to go bankrupt. So you got lucky that Elon Musk is such a high level thinker, executor, is that whatever it is. But Another company like Ride or Workhorse, a lot of people recently went into those. I know it's not the same thing. You don't have Elon Musk, but in 2016, Elon Musk wasn't the 2022 Elon Musk. Let's look at the timeline. So I get what you're saying, but you bought a lottery ticket and you won.
But you're taking something away from Elon and Tesla.
I got Bitcoin in 2012 even, but when I really went hard, it was 2017. Mm-hmm. It was luck that it went up at the end of the day. I get it has a
luck system. Hurts me. I'm not sure if I believe.
Look, I held it. It's hard to hold something that drops 90%, and I still held it. I'm not saying that part is luck. That part is like some steel balls. I'm not. Listen, I agree with you there, but at the end of the day, that could have failed just as easily as it went up like 20x. Like honestly, so you have to be honest with your investments. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I want to go back to what you were asking, Amit, and what Sean was talking about. The easiest way to compound money, the way I found when you have low money, we're talking about low money, not diversification. You're absolutely right. In fact, I think real estate is the easiest way, and the reason is very simple. Because you go to a bank, and the bank says, we'll give you 95%, even 97%. If you're a first-time home buyer, you could do 3% down in America. I don't know about Canada, but we're talking about America.
3%, yeah.
No way. You can't do 3% down here. First-time home buyers, even FHA loans, a bunch of stuff. You guys should read some books if you're curious. There's no other place where
someone to go to read the books. Definitely.
Amazon.com.
The library, bro.
It's a better place. It's called the library.
But my point is, nobody else gives you 97% financing for something. Like you can't do that in stocks the same way without them taking it away as soon as it drops, basically, or crypto. As soon as it drops, they pull the rug from you. But real estate compounds your money really fast. And when I had $20,000, like you're saying, the first thing I did was buy a piece of real estate when I was 23 years old. That was the first thing I did with a partner. I only put in $5,000 and he put in $5,000. And then we spent the next 3 months fixing it with our own bare hands. And then that house made us $100,000 2 years later because the market was doing good. Yes. So that was the fastest way I compounded cash when I was young in order to even be able to afford Tesla stock and all these other things we're discussing. So I think that's
what about now though? The prices are off the charts. Real estate prices are off the charts.
This is the weird thing about real estate. It's always going to go up.
Yeah,
that's the weird thing. The second weird thing about real estate.
Context, what do you mean it's always going to go up?
No, meaning in over the 10, 20, 30 year, nobody treats real estate like this. You don't buy a piece of real estate and say, unless you're a flipper. Carlos here. Let's revisit this Facebook debate. All right, Carlos.
That's a Carlos, one half of freelance finance, and he's in Spain right now with his wife and his daughter. So
I've lost your question. What was it again? I've lost your question.
Oh, we're saying with the prices of homes now, would you still recommend that to?
I'm still buying homes, by the way. I'm still looking right now because at the end of the day, it's a math problem with real estate. It's like, okay, how much is rent? How much are my expenses? Does it all work out? How much am I taking for a loan? And the good thing about real estate, you don't want to use any money. So I know a lot of people, I'm not sure how Sean does it, maybe he buys all cash, but a lot of people use very little money in real estate, maximize their leverage because then their returns are massive. I don't know, Sean, if you want to chime in with this.
Sean does it right now, and then he'll talk about it.
Return on investment, that's very important.
Sean from Rest to Live here. Listen, if you're thinking about buying an investment property, piece of commercial real estate, anything that you're looking for from an investment perspective, and you're really not sure, you haven't done it before, one of the easiest things you can do is to start to tour these places. Go to open houses of 2, 3, 4 family homes and listen to the kinds of questions that are being asked, right? There will typically be some other experienced folks there. They know what to ask. They know what to listen for. Your goal is not to figure out how to buy that place. Your goal is to figure out what they're looking at, why it's important, and how they come up with the math that they use to determine a good investment or one that isn't. It's also good to get comfortable with the way buildings are built, get into the basements, take pictures, understand, what an HVAC system is, why that matters, how the pipes look, what kind of materials are being used, do the walls leak or not, signs to look for. It's hard to be an investor, but it's a hell of a lot easier if you do the right things ahead of time. Thanks for watching. Perfect time.
Sean, how do we, and Vitaly, because you guys are the real estate guys here, how does someone get started if they have 20K to just get into real estate?
So listen, here's the deal, right? There are very few investments where you can go in and touch the walls and kick the tires and ask questions to the people who are actually selling and investigate the local market yourself. When you invest in a company, whether it's good or bad, or even in the case of Tesla, my guess is you haven't been in their corporate offices. You haven't sat at the desk with Elon to hear his thoughts. And so there's some degree of risk that is inherent in anything that you can't put your hands on and feel. The beauty of real estate is that there's an ebb and flow between the opportunity that exists within the marketplace you're targeting. So while residential real estate is currently going absolutely bonkers and insane, guess what isn't? Commercial real estate. Everyone's working at home. Office buildings are cheaper than ever. You can grab spots that are outdated and not being cared for. People are letting a lot of these properties slip. So there's always commercial property that exists that's in bad shape, that's underutilized, that's misutilized. And so as the retail market goes through the roof, like in my area, you forget about it. It's insane. To try to buy a house where I live is insane. But the commercial property, it's floor prices. That building I was touring the day that I made that video was freaking massive. And they only wanted 1.4 because they needed someone who would come in, reposition it, fight the local law on it, and then also work out some of the issues within the fieldstone basement. I've got a really good team behind me. I'm going to get to your question, though, a bit on get started. But like the key is over time you build these things. You know what to look for and how to look for it. You can make assessments really quick and easy. But there's a really simple thing I've been doing for a long, long time. And I have a business partner in real estate too. We're actually good friends. We go way back. We do it together. We came up with a formula that is an absolute yes or no, full stop, non-emotional. It either fits the parameters of our business or it doesn't. No matter what else, we don't care. It could be the greatest property I've ever seen. I've wished I could buy this building for the past 20 years. Doesn't fit, we don't buy it, period, full stop. So the way to think about getting started is, number one, this is going to be tough to hear, okay? You don't have to buy where you live. That's it. You don't have to buy in the most expensive areas. I live in Massachusetts, okay? Coastal town, coastal state. It's insanely expensive near the city. Massachusetts is a tiny state, but guess what? I literally drive 2.5 hours west. I'm like in a whole different world. You're not in Boston anymore. You're in rural Massachusetts, where homes are going for 200, 250K. And this is the most no bullshit thing you're going to ever hear when talking about this idea of negotiating and no down payments and all this other bull crap. If you're buying for the first time, you can put down 3% in most programs to get yourself a home. You get yourself a 2-family in House Hackett, you get a renter in there, that's even better. In Massachusetts, a heavily known urban area, but even though it really isn't, more than I would say 75% of Massachusetts falls within USDA. USDA loans require 0 down. That's how much they require.
Even better than the 3% I was talking about.
Yep. And this applies to New Jersey. This applies to Ohio. This applies to California, right? You need to not just look at where you are. If you're saying to yourself, I only have 20K, I can't buy real estate. Yeah, you can't buy real estate in Boston. You probably can't buy it in Dallas. You can't buy it in Trenton, New Jersey. But there are a lot of places you can buy it where there is demand for it. So just make sure you're within shooting distance of a major MSA, a metropolitan area, right? You understand the math behind it. Where are you going to get for rents? Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We buy strictly in the Southwest because the laws are very favorable, the prices are very workable, and the rents
Isn't that where the mafia is?
The mafia in the Southwest, in Southeast rather. I don't know.
Just so you know, I'm gonna have a more practical approach than Sean. So when I follow up with this, I'm gonna talk to the people who actually have no money and really need to. Sean's talking like you're talking about Southwest. People shouldn't be looking 2.5 hours away max, because the problem is, as soon as a problem happens, you have to call somebody. And the best thing you do is you don't call somebody, you drive there and you learn how to fix it. That's the best thing you can do when you're starting out. That's what I did. I had to learn how to fix that plumbing, that electrical. And it sounds crazy, but you get a Home Depot book and you learn how to do it. Okay.
John, how do you deal with that if something bad happens and you're not?
I have never.
We're talking about day one. We're not talking about 20 years into it.
The very first house I ever bought was in Tennessee and I live in Boston. I still to this day haven't seen that house. I still own it. I hire property managers who are reputable, who have long-term relationships with the attorneys I use down there. And I have never received a call from a tenant. I've never had to do a single thing except collect my rent every month.
What was your net worth when you bought that house?
I was full-time working. I mean, I had no money, nothing.
But you have to have some money for the property manager, right? At some level?
No,
well, it's a percentage. It's a percentage of the rent.
8% of my rent goes to the property manager.
That's a reasonable solution, Vitaly. That's not insane.
Well, I want to give well, the problem is, okay, so I lived around New York, right? So if I had a property manager in New York, it's 10 to 20%. It's not 8%, by the way. It's different terms here around the New York area, New Jersey. And I'm talking about Jersey City, actually. So still great opportunity. Anyone who's living around New York, you should check out Jersey City. Still, you can find deals right now if they want to look. I don't know if anyone's from New York around here, but Okay, so day one, when me and my partner knew nothing, we had almost no money because we were kids, by the way. I was like 23, he's 20. We took, I think it was 10 grand. We bought a $200,000 roach infested, like horrific house, needed new carpets, painting. I mean, it needed to be torn down and rebuilt. Well, let's face it. Like, I have pictures of all this, and one day maybe I'll share it on a YouTube thing. But we were not going to hire anybody. We had to learn how it worked. That's the other problem. You cannot hire anybody until you know how it works. How much is a plumber? How much is an electrician? How much is this? How much is a piece of sheetrock? How much is a cabinet? We knew nothing. Do you know what I'm saying? I got my father in the very first house to say, hey, how do I even paint? I didn't know how to do anything. Like, how do you paint this thing? In fact, when we first bought that house for $10,000, $200,000 house, we put down, what is that? Is that 5%? It's 5%. Put down 10 grand. We spent another $2,000. This is split between two people, by the way. It wasn't me alone. We put another 2 grand into paint and carpets, and that's basically it. And we roach bombed it ourselves. We were so cheap. We did not even hire the exterminator. We didn't want to pay him the $100. We bombed it from Home Depot like bombs for like a week straight. So I'm not saying everybody needs to go through the same thing, but I've learned so much doing that now I can hire any contractor and know exactly what I need to pay them. If you don't do that and you skip it over, like Sean is saying, no offense, you've basically missed the whole learning experience of what things cost in real estate. And then you'll always be paying way too much. That's what I think is going to happen.
So I will just agree to disagree. I think for depending on what your goal is,
it's a good solution.
If that's potentially the goal for sure, I think it makes sense. I approach it more from a business perspective of how do I get to 1,000 doors, and I don't even want to see them. It's no different than buying a REIT for me. They go into an LLC, they get packaged, and I eventually sell to a hedge fund. Like, that's the way I'm approaching the real estate is stacking it, putting it into an up REIT, which is where I essentially go to other.
We're talking about day one. We're not talking about 10 years.
But I'm saying, like, even on day one, that's why I don't.
We need to see who Tally's roach house. I have pictures.
Actually, now we got to see it. But like, I think day one though, even getting simpler than what both of us just said, if you can go out and find a reasonable 2 or 3 family, reasonables, I know it's obtuse to say that nowadays. I get that. But like, if you can find an opportunity to house hack and rent some rooms out to your buddies, maybe it's just a small condo. And if you get 2 or 3 people renting with you, that covers your bills. That's a great foot in to start building equity and get some of the growth that's happening. And there's also a lot of things you can write off on real estate. They're going to help you with your earnings and your savings as well. Yep. So anyways, yeah, I'll drill down everything I said into one single statement. 3% down is not a lot of money. Get some people to help you pay your rent, could be friends, whatever. And that's the easiest way to house hack your way into property 1. You can repeat it after 2 years in property 2 and pay no capital gains taxes when you sell that first one. Right? The advantages to doing this over a couple of years are huge. I'm not a CPA.
I want to repeat that, by the way. This is so important what he's saying. So real estate for Emmanuel, besides leveraging 97%, 2 years later, the government says, go ahead, do it again and keep all the money.
Yeah.
Don't pay any taxes, keep all the money, or do a 1031 exchange, which the government also lets real estate people do. Take the house, make all the profit, put it into a bigger house. They don't charge you anything for it. No taxes paid. That's one.
I just need to understand. You guys are talking about renting or selling the properties in the short term?
After you rent it, and let's say the prices went up, and you're like, well, now I could make 100,000 in 2 years on this house. Maybe it's better I get another house. You can sell it, keep all the money because you live there, like he said, house hack, or do a 1031. You guys can look it up, and basically you get to keep the money again, and you get to upscale to the bigger house, like a commercial property, like a 6-family or a 4-family. No
capital gains.
That's no capital gains. No taxes.
The reason you don't pay capital gains is it's a deferred tax payment with the assumption that you're going to continue to improve the real estate you buy into bigger properties and keep growing that opportunity up. So it's an incentive to continue to improve properties and defer that into larger ownership. So at some point, perhaps you'll have to pay it, but it's going to be so far down the road and you can defer it that maybe your situation has changed. You're going to pay less for income taxes anyways and capital gain, et cetera, right? That's the real play there.
Honestly, you can defer it forever. That's the beauty of this. That's the government has went into business with real estate investors. Their lobbying is so strong that nobody else has this kind of privilege. So everybody should be in real estate if they learn all of these things, you know.
Yeah, huge.
Interesting stuff.
I don't know why you guys are preaching growth stocks then. Real estate.
Well, okay. Well, actually, I do want to respond to that. So once you do that and you've leveraged all of that, and now you want to
Maybe,
10x.
but why the fuck are y'all talking about growth stock?
No, but there is a reason, because you're not going to get a
go ahead.
10x in the same amount of time. Like Tesla will give you a 10x within
I
a
have
couple of years.
I have an amazing question, actually. Okay, so this is what I love Michael Saylor. He's the Bitcoin guy. You guys follow Michael Saylor? But his theory.
That's what I was wondering.
I'm trying to get a new background.
Early Halloween theme.
Yo, we need those brick walls.
Podcast.
We need those brick walls. I mean, listen, serious question. So Michael Saylor says, he's referring to Bitcoin, but let's just talk about the principle. He says, I'm never going to sell my Bitcoin because I'm going to use it and get a mortgage against it. I'm going to use it as collateral. Yeah. I'll never have to sell it. I won't have to pay tax. I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to say, oh, an X amount of Bitcoin, would you guys lend me some money? What do you think about, okay, because now it's tax season and I had to pay and it's disgusting. So I'm like, man, I'm never going to sell a stock ever. I never want to sell my Bitcoin. And same thing with the house. Can I use all three of these, go to the bank, ask for money at a fixed interest rate, a low, reasonable interest rate, and continually do that and use that money to spend, since that money is not taxable? Is there a flaw in that system, in that thinking? And in the meantime, yes. Tesla, Palantir, Bitcoin is going to grow.
I mean, I've spoken too much. Sean, you want to take this one? But yes,
there are a lot of flaws in that. Is that he's talking about doing this as a corporation with access to capital markets, where they can get the money they need for cheap money and keep regurgitating that and have it backed by a corporate balance sheet of income. That's the part he's not sharing in a lot of these videos. Mm-hmm. You're going to go to your local bank and they're going to be like, sure, what's your income? And you're like, it's zero, but I own a lot of stock. And they're going to be like, yeah, so you're worth nothing. That's what you're telling me. Now, here's an alternative.
Well, with your house too, excuse me, but with, let's say, at least the house you live in paid, and you'll remortgage the house you live in, refinance the house you live in with also the backing of stocks and crypto.
Well, are you assuming here you're working like a full-time job doing all of this?
Let's say no for the sake of the discussion.
You can't get a mortgage. You can't refinance. It's based on income, not on assets.
You can refinance the home that you've paid off. If your house is paid off, you
cannot without income. You cannot. You have, because how are you going to pay it back?
Yeah, it's harder. But Sean, just to clarify, if you do have commercial property that is making enough money, as you know, I'm sure.
I'm talking non-rental. This is a single-family home we're talking about here.
Okay. Yeah. Is this a rental or a single-family home?
I was referring to a single-family home, but for example, in the same aspect, once you refinance one home, you can invest into a different property. So I'm just saying, building, a portfolio of small real estate with some stocks, BTC.
Sure. You have to have income, though. Income is everything. Once you have enough properties, and usually what a bank looks at, and I got to jump in a second. Usually what a bank looks at is 2-year history of rental income, and then you can use it to qualify for another mortgage or refinance, etc. So there's minimums. I'm going to call out one thing, but I'm going to say a caveat. It's extremely risky to do this. Mm-hmm. When you build a very large portfolio of stocks, let's get away from real estate for the second. You can live completely off of your portfolio by borrowing against it, but it largely is going to work much better in a sense if you have a ton of let's just say, like, I don't even want to name a stock. You've got some blue chip stocks, they pay dividends. You can borrow against your portfolio. You don't need permission from anyone to do this. You'll have it through your margin. You borrow margin to pay all your bills, buy all of your real estate. You, in theory, depending on the rate, can have those dividends essentially pay it back. And you're writing off that margin as a loss on your income as well. So the more there is a vertex that you will cross in your portfolio size and functionality, what you can do with it, where now you can leverage your assets to borrow and get more assets. But it has to be based initially on income with real estate, and then over time with size in your portfolio. I'm not saying you can't do it when it's a small portfolio. What I'm saying is the risk would be too inherently insane to do it. And you would also not want to do it against a Tesla, because what if Tesla took a 40% drop and then you got margin called the next day? Where would you come up with that money to pay?
No, not margin call. Hold on. What I'm owning, and let's say if someone owns their stocks, is not on margin. It's already what they own. What the money they have.
Yeah, but as soon as you borrow money against that, it's a margin.
It's collateral.
The Tesla's drop, they're gonna go call back the money that they lent me.
Yes.
Yeah. They could.
No, it's even worse than that. They're going to sell your stocks to just pay for it. They're not even going to. They're going to give you some warning, an hour warning.
We disagree with private lending, right? Elaine says, Sean, you get private lending in Canada, but interest rates are much higher, and loan value rotation needs to be 50-50.
For sure. So we do what's called hard money. Hard money is typically 15% upfront payment, could be like a 20% interest rate. They're short, but here's the thing: private lending is for very, very short term. It's for like, I'm going to flip a house and I don't have the cash to do it. I'm going to take a hard money loan. I'm going to pay for 3 or 4 months of holding that property and fixing it up, etc. And then the reason why I'm willing to pay more, I'm not dealing with the bank's paperwork. I'm gonna flip it quick and get the money out. But I've seen a lot of people lose everything for short-term private lending.
I would say stay away from that until you actually know what you're doing. Step one is just to, the way I did it is I got friends, just like Amit is getting people he knows to invest in a startup. I got people that trust me, maybe not the first one, but I showed them after I did one little crappy one. The second and the third were bigger, more expensive. And that's when I raised a bunch of money from people I know. And honestly, as soon as people see that you're succeeding, they actually want a piece of your success. You'd be surprised, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you guys, I'm going to jump after I make this statement. And this is like my, I don't care what happens in my life. I never borrow against my personal home. I never borrow against my retirement. I don't care what the opportunity is, where it is, or how good it is. This is just me. I will never touch the home that my family lives in, and I will never touch my retirement, because all else fails, my portfolios disappear, my rental real estate burns down. I need a house to live in and a place that I can retire. You can easily get a job in between. And I think for me, those are rules that guarantee at least some degree of success in life while keeping everyone really safe. So keep your personal home and retirement off the table as much as possible. And always, 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 if you're taking risks, try to find ways to hedge them and learn ways to do that. And with that, I got to jump, guys. A pleasure to be on with everybody.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it.
I want to see the commercial series. So,
I am literally working on it. I can't believe how much work it's going to be, but I am literally working on it. I might bring you in as a guest on some of that too.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. I'll talk to you later, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for reading the comments.
Thanks, Sean.
See you.
Yeah. I guess the final point is that I feel like people are treating it like it's complicated. It's really not. So everyone could put together in this day and age 5, 10, 15,000. I know that sounds like maybe it's a lot for some people. I don't know. Honestly, in the comments we can ask.
It shouldn't be that much for people.
Is 10 to 20 grand too much money for you people? Because if you have a job and you can even leverage, this is what I did in other properties, by the way. When I had enough property under my name, the bank doesn't want to give you any more loans because you can't show any more income. So you go to your parents, you go to your friends, whoever wants to be in this deal, and you leverage them. You have to trust them, of course, but I had my partner. I trusted him. I trusted my parents. And basically what I'm saying is they can sign for the loan as well, and they could be on the actual deed in the mortgage. So you don't have to be the guy on that mortgage. It sounds a little bit more complicated, but it's really not. Does that make sense, Emmanuel, or no?
Yeah, I follow.
Emmanuel's like, I'm all in Tesla pounds here. Now these guys
F you, Tesla.
No, I'm thinking, I'm a building engineer.
Bitcoin.
I'm a building engineer. I've done a flip. I built houses from scratch.
Oh, nice. Oh, very cool, man. Do you own any real estate?
Now at this point, no. And that's why I mentioned to you, listen, especially with what's been going on in the past 2 years and government showing their overreach, I've been fearful. I left my job in my salary. I left it last summer because I wanted to become an entrepreneur, contractor for myself. And the main goal was to go real estate and construction. And I didn't find, first of all, things are expensive. And then second of all, what we've been going through, I've been really discouraged from real estate at this point in terms of government. I feel that's why I mentioned before. Did you like anything about Bitcoin philosophically? Because the Bitcoin maximalists, they're preaching true ownership with Bitcoin. So I listen to them. Filtering out what they're saying, deciphering.
Yo, you got to filter that out.
I'm thinking about it. I'm digesting. So they're saying that's the only true ownership. They said even property.
Look, at the end of the day,
property with the taxes you're paying, it's not even yours. They're saying it's not even real property ownership. Property with the taxes you're paying. Oh my God,
it's so ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. They're trying to keep you poor. Like, these people have already made their money. Like, they've been in it for 10, 15 years, not 20 years, but since 2009, the maximalists, they have millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. They're telling you not to sell. F them, honestly. You need to live your own life. Forget about them.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting, that point they bring up in terms of true property ownership.
Yeah. We all
because
like that.
Governments can come. So what I was saying before, government overreach, they could technically come in. Look, I was in Canada. I mean, we went through some heavy stuff in the last few months. They show that they can come after you, your bank account, and the next step.
Do you
would
think
be
they can't get your
property too.
Bitcoin? No, that's a serious question. Do you think?
I think they cannot. No.
The government knows where I live, by the way. Do you think I'm trying to run over the border with 2 kids? No, that's not happening with me in America, man. If they come and take my Bitcoin, I won't like it, and I'm going to fight, but they're going to take it at the end of the day.
Oh, I don't know. With that password stuff, I mean, if you wouldn't give it to me, you could say you.
No, I'm saying they don't need to come do that even. There's exchanges that we have to use to cash out. So
yeah, but once you get it off the exchange in cold storage,
and then hide in the forest. I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, honestly, think about a modern day. Like, I need the internet. They have my cell phone number. They know where I live. I mean, there's no way that they won't be able to get it unless I'm willing to risk and lose everything that I've built.
Again, Emmanuel says, screw you. He's going to buy more Bitcoin.
No. No, that's the journey of my own whole thing.
I'm not saying, no. You should buy Bitcoin when it's down, especially. I'm saying invest in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be $1 million. I believe that. It doesn't mean I'm a maximalist.
All right.
$1 million, maybe.
That would make the market cap like.
We're not picking on a myth here. A myth.
I don't know. 70 trillion.
A myth is super concentrated and no Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Well, so my portfolio, I think people know I have a $64,000 portfolio. I'm down 24 grand or 20 grand. So it's
all in Doge.
It's all in Doge. It's 2 stocks. One is Palantir, which is about 60% of it, about 40 grand. And the other 20 grand is in a biotech that I heavily believe. By the way, it's up 50% in the past month. So I heavily believe it's going to have the cure to cancer. Now, that's kind of crazy. But nonetheless, I mean, that's my due diligence. But that's not all my money. I do have cash on the side. I've decided to stop investing because now that I'm on the startup journey and I'm not going to have a salary after we finish this pre-seed round, I need all the money I can get in my bank account to pay for my living expenses. And I've done the math, and I will be good for the next 15 months, but I can't invest in the market anymore. I just don't have the ability to. But that's why when Sean mentioned concentrating means going all in on like a business, it made sense to me because it's like if you're starting a restaurant, a startup, anything, it's like that really does require to even have a chance of success all in times $1 billion. But if it's just public equities and crypto, like you don't really got to go all in. Like you don't have to. Right.
Yeah, you should put that comment up. And Mitt has as much Bitcoin as he has women.
First of all,
you don't need him having women. He's got to concentrate.
I gotta concentrate.
Well, see, the thing is, like, let me just fight against this full concentration because I actually didn't invest in the stock market till probably 10 years in real estate. That's when I started. I didn't even know the stock market existed technically. Like, I was really. What is the word? Like, I just didn't know that I can buy stocks and then get dividends and even Tesla.
I was exactly the same way. Can I ask what age you started?
Investing in the stock market or in real estate?
Exactly.
Okay. Real estate was around 22, 23. Stock market in my 30s. So 10 years later, I'm 35. I'm 44.
I'm 35. So I started at 32, let's say.
Yeah, so
for myself, I'm
the geezer in the group, but so yeah, I waited 10 years, and real estate is what helped me build most of like sort of safety. It wasn't like massive wealth, but it was like a safety position where it'd be hard to fail unless I really just messed up something big. Basically, that's what real estate does. It's a safe investment. It's not going to give you a 10x, but it's going to generate wealth. It is going to do that and just preserve it at the same time. You know. I bought PB.
That's my biotech.
I can go. But I did that for a minute. So here's the thing. Okay, let's say you did 10 or 20,000. Let's say even 10,000 into 3 positions, and then you spent the other 34,000 into Palantir, right? Mm-hmm. Why aren't you doing it that way? Because I'll give you an example. Like if you invest in riskier plays, like not Tesla anymore, that's already done, but Enphase. Let's talk about Enphase. But if you invest in riskier plays, right? Those plays will probably get you a 10x. So wouldn't you be a little bit safer and going into 3 different?
You're right. I started buying this biotech when I was 2 years ago, 2020, and it's irrational. Like that 20,000 in the biotech or 30,000, it should be across like an Enphase or a Matterport or something like that. But I've had it for so long, and I've sat with it for so long, and my conviction has gotten so ridiculous. Like my dad has 1,000 shares, my mom has 4,000 shares, my sister. Like the conviction's pretty deep on it, and so that's why I haven't sold out because I should have sold out a while ago. But
how come you don't give any reporting on it then? So if it's so heavy,
because it's a biotech, and at the end of the day, if their drugs fail, it goes to shit, and I don't want to publicize it.
But at least the news, keep us up to date with the news and the trials, the updates.
Yeah, it's just hard. Like you could do it with a public company like Palantir, like a public biotech. Odds are it's going to go to shit. I just have so much conviction that, and there's just so much logical reasoning why it's not going to go to shit. I mean, the people that have joined the board of directors, there's just so much stuff. But it's hard to say because then people will believe me. Like you guys know I'm convincing, right? So if like I make a video like yo, purple biotech is gonna go to the moon, and then it goes.
No, you don't have to make it at that, but at least like an overview, a general overview of what's going on.
Yeah, but okay. So here's the thing: if that's going to be 100x because they're going to solve cancer, this is what we're getting at. Okay, not why can't you take out? Why? Well, hold on. If even 50x, why can't you take out $10,000? Take your 50x on the biotech and get your 10x on Enphase. I don't understand. Like that makes no sense to me.
Because I'm down like $8,000 on it, and I don't want to sell for a loss, right? Like I guess maybe that's a problem with my psychology at some level.
Yeah, it's a sunk cost fallacy. Actually, it's really hard to get past that. But Emmanuel, we didn't talk about your 3 stocks. Tesla's one of them.
Tesla. So I'll give some percentages. Now, since Tesla's on the high, it's at 60. 30% would be in cash. Does that make sense?
You said 3 stocks, though.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to show you the cash portion. I was giving you the cash portion. So let's say, let's call it 50 Tesla, 30s in cash. Then the remaining is split between Palantir and MicroStrategy.
Okay,
MicroStrategy and Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, basically Bitcoin. I mean, you invest in MicroStrategy, it's Bitcoin. So do you have any Bitcoin on the side, like actual Bitcoin?
Exactly. So in that same percentage of MicroStrategy, Bitcoin. Same, but the MicroStrategy, the advantage there, it's in the tax-free savings. Tax-free savings account. So if Bitcoin rips, MicroStrategy rips, I don't need to get taxed on the gains. And furthermore, the amazing thing about MicroStrategy, it's super risky, so I'm not even pushing it to anyone, but amazing thing about MicroStrategy, for example, Michael Saylor bought 4,000 more Bitcoins today with MicroStrategy.
Yeah, he has 128,000 now, right?
So with the same Bitcoin, with the same investment I did, for example, let's call it 10,000, whenever, he kept buying more Bitcoin with my initial investment. I didn't put $1 more, but over the last 18 months, I accumulated with that same $10,000, like triple the amount of Bitcoin. So that's the amazing thing about MicroStrategy, that he could use his cash flow and leverage the company and the business to buy more Bitcoin. So with the same investment I did, I tripled the amount of Bitcoin associated to that.
Yeah, I feel, look, I'm actually heavily invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I actually believe in it a lot, even though it's just an investment.
But you said you were rolling the dice before, so it's not just a roll of the dice. Then.
Well, when I say rolling the dice, I had high conviction too, by the way. So when I was doing it even in 2012, but did not hold my Bitcoin at 2016 when I sold, big mistake. But I didn't have as much education about it. Now that I've learned over a decade about it, I do believe that there's going to be a layer of the financial system that is Bitcoin or Ethereum. I do agree there, but I'm not a maximalist. That's the difference. It's an investment vehicle, just like Tesla's an investment vehicle. I love Teslas. I love that it's an EV. It's changing the world, but no one buys a stock to lose money, right? Nobody's doing that. So back to the Bitcoin thing. I don't understand people who hold MicroStrategy and don't just invest strictly in the Bitcoin, because it can separate itself out. Like MicroStrategy can trade differently than Bitcoin at some point. And we even see that with Coinbase. Like Coinbase did not pump as much as it should have in this last run up. I don't know if you're watching Coinbase.
Well, no, not as much. I saw that it went down today, for example, but MicroStrategy is more directly, I understand it won't follow exactly what Bitcoin does, but it's more correlated to Bitcoin itself.
It is correlated, but the problem is when Bitcoin's going to tear and it's going to 150,000, MicroStrategy is not going to do the same 3x. I don't believe it.
Well, but what I mentioned before is that it's in the tax-free savings account. So as much as MicroStrategy follows Bitcoin on the rip, even if it's not identical, at least I'm not getting taxed on those gains.
What about GBTC then?
GBTC, yeah, they were a fund. Let me think why I didn't do that. They had a fee. They had fees. And they're not doing the same thing as MicroStrategy, which I mentioned. He's able to use the free cash flow and leverage the company to buy more Bitcoin. I don't know if GBTC is doing that same thing, and they're charging a fee. So in that sense, what I bought into, man, he's super charismatic, Michael Saylor. So sometimes I have to take myself back and try and question him, but like when he speaks, like I'm convinced, man. He convinces me, but like again, man, still.
This is what I'm looking for. I bought Sava stock at 125 and it ran to 100. Don't lose hope of it. Not gonna lie, I got lucky as hell. Yeah, but the thing about purple biotech if you go to their stock twits, there's a guy. His name is Brad Lassance. This guy got into it June 2020. When I don't care about it too much anymore. I don't go to stock twits anymore. But when I say he can write a thesis or a book that is probably 1,000 pages long on the level of due diligence he has done on this company. And like, so going to your point, like you follow Michael Saylor, you have to put yourselves out of it sometimes. He's one of the guys that, I look to religiously. This guy knows everything, and he's created such a unique story around the company based upon facts and logic and reasoning that, and I started investing it when I was 3 years ago. So I was a lot more naive, but I went into it, and now I'm not selling because I believe in it and I have conviction, and hopefully it plays out. But ultimately we got to see what happens.
Vitaly, what do you think about Michael Saylor? You listen to him at all?
I do. And I just don't like maximalist in anything. Honestly, I don't think, like he's going to be proven right, not because he's saying it, but that's because the Bitcoin network has been building itself from 2009 or 10, and it's going to keep building itself, whether Michael Saylor is there or not, by the way. So I think this is happening without Michael Saylor.
Yeah.
He just hopped on the bandwagon, and now everybody follows him. But 4 years ago, he was saying his shit. Like if you go back to his tweets, he was saying it's garbage. I wasn't saying it was garbage. I was saying, let's roll the dice. You know what I mean?
Well, if you had a public company, I'd invest in you too. Don't worry about that.
No, but my point is, like, I don't know. I don't like picking Michael Saylor as the Bitcoin god when honestly, I just want to buy Bitcoin. I just want to buy Ethereum. I'd rather just own those assets and not even deal with Michael Saylor and what he's doing, because he can mess up. He can mess up the company. Has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Then your stock will tank. Bitcoin will shoot up. And I think you're missing an opportunity there.
Could be, but like I said, it's for the tax-free aspect.
Well,
of it,
then I go back to GBTC. You're trying to get more upside on Michael Saylor buying more Bitcoin, which I understand. So you're sort of playing like a call option on free Bitcoin.
Well, he's buying it. Listen,
and
as
he's
long
charismatic.
as
He likes
he's charismatic.
No,
do you know about Upstart at all? What's his name? Vitaly?
A little bit. I haven't done my research there, so I'm not invested in that.
Okay, me either. Owen needs to stop talking about it. But.
Yeah, stop it all.
And I was going to ask Vitaly how he manages his time. You mentioned the two kids, the real estate. Are you still involved in that? How are you having time to manage the YouTube and check out
today,
all these different stocks?
He harasses me on WhatsApp all day. That's all.
That's all I do now.
Literally. And we're using WhatsApp because he has his Facebook book. I never use WhatsApp. I use.
By the way, Carlos made me use WhatsApp.
I know,
okay, the guy who hates Facebook made me use WhatsApp. That's a shout out to you, Carlos, if you're watching.
Why you don't own the iPhone?
No. We own the iPhone, but whatever. I don't even get into it. I don't even want to get into it. Yeah, it's a group chat. But yeah, I'm a Facebook mini bull. I don't have like a big position in Facebook, but I think people are discounting it tremendously. But anyway, I do have a real estate story. If someone wants to hear a real estate story.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh, Carlos is watching. I love that Carlos is in one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
Yo,
it's like 5 a.m. over there.
With his beautiful
dude, you should be having sex. Wait, what the hell are you doing?
What time is in Spain?
It's 5 a.m.
Like isn't Spain for love?
Oh, it's
right?
5 a.m. This guy's watching Three Losers.
Oh man, you crazy.
At 5 a.m.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, real estate is hard. I just want to point out why not?
Why we use WhatsApp? I think that's what he's getting at.
Oh, because I randomly text people by accident that aren't him about private shit, and he's just like, use WhatsApp.
That's so funny. Okay.
Dick pics and stuff.
Okay. Real estate story.
WhatsApp group has been.
I forget sometimes I'm on the internet, but anyway, a real estate story in terms of that it's hard. It's not actually. It's simple, meaning like, look, you put down 5%, you can have leverage 95%. You buy a house, you fix it up. You can move in, you can get tax-free stuff. That all sounds great, but when the shit hits the fan, there are problems. It's not like a stock or a dividend stock or a growth stock. You're going to have to go fix a toilet. This is the one thing. So just this recently, in the last couple of months, I've been dealing with literally feces in the basement of one of the properties where it was spilling onto the street because I had a sump pump. So I was getting all these legal summonses, legal things that saying, hey, you're spilling out things from your sump pump. And I was like, what's going on? My plumbing is fine. Like I had a plumber check it out. Then I go downstairs and I check it out personally after all this is happening. And apparently the neighbors next door, their plumbing has totally, their main drain has exploded, but nobody's in the basement. So they don't care. And it's spilling into my basement and then going out through a sump pump outside. which is crazy.
They don't care.
So,
how don't they care? Isn't there an odor?
Well, this is the problem with a lot of real estate investors. They don't fix their property. So, I had to get involved. And this was like months of work, by the way. I'm talking about it like it's a day or two, but I have to go down. I have to go talk to these people. I have to go find them. First of all, I have to go find these people. They don't want to be found by me, like the owners of these buildings. So you're dealing with a lot of this type of stuff that a lot of people don't want to do. Like buying a dividend stock is easy. You're going to get some money. You're going to get 5% into your account. This 5% you're going to work for. Okay.
Yeah,
So the difference is that when you wake up in 10 years, that house is worth probably way more than you bought it for, like way more.
Okay, so go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, I'm just getting to the fact, look, if you're buying, I think there was a comment by Chris, actually. He said, not if you bought in Detroit. Okay, so you pick one spot in America that it didn't happen. But honestly, if you're buying around major metropolitan cities, I think you're going to be okay.
On the so back to drawing it back to the Bitcoin.
Yes, Commander Master is right, by the way. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Back to the Bitcoin. Does the inflation, money printing, potential weakness of the US dollar, Canadian dollar worry you at all with any investing, or especially real estate?
Yes, but yes, exactly. It does. And that's why I hold 99.9% of everything in assets. I actually don't have a lot of cash. What I keep it in, my cash position is actually dividend stocks. So I keep a lot of money in dividend stocks. And look, if it fluctuates, it does, but it always throws off cash every single month. And I'm going to do a dividend video, by the way. It's and I made it public. We have a Discord where I showed. It's not a lot yet. I started it like a couple of years ago. It's around $1,000 a month it's throwing off, but I'm planning to build that into like basically paying for my livelihood. And that's my cash position.
So what I mentioned to Sean before, March 2020, I think Ford canceled their dividend completely. And among others, they reduced their dividend. So that never even seemed like a guarantee.
Well, you don't. And so dividends are different. So, like you went into Tesla, and I also went heavy into Tesla. It's 30% of my portfolio, by the way. So the difference is that when you buy dividends, you don't care who's paying you. It's not like I care if it's Ford or if it's J&J or Pfizer. You buy as many as you can of them, 30, 40, 50 stocks. But high quality ones. We're not talking about these aren't penny stocks. These are high quality companies, Kmart, Target, Home Depot, that aren't going anywhere. And then one of these companies stops paying a dividend. For example, I had Disney in my portfolio back a couple of years ago. I immediately sold it as soon as they announced and put it into somewhere else immediately. Because the whole point is not to keep Disney for a 3x.
Yeah.
Do you invest in BDCs?
What's that again?
MLPs? Do you know what those are?
No.
Chris, put it in the clarification in the chat.
Well, obviously don't if I don't know what that is.
Yeah. All right, guys, we gotta head out. So last 5 minutes because I've got to pee. I've been holding in this piss.
You got to change it to admit I've got to pee.
For some, bro, I don't know what's been going on. I sit down. I'm like, it's time to maybe it's a new background or something. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we didn't even discuss Palantir, which is your guy's favorite thing. You should be.
Vitaly, when are you gonna add to your 1,000 shares? When are you gonna make it 2,000?
I mean, I was thinking of selling.
Why? How do you not get it yet? I don't know what's the issue.
Well, you had Joseph Carlson on your show. I don't know if you saw that, Emmanuel. And
yeah, I saw it. Tuned in.
I do like Joseph Carlson, and because he's very rational about the whole thing. He's like, I keep saying the same thing as him, actually. I just don't see it in my day-to-day life. It's easier for me to hold Tesla because I have a Tesla.
But that argument is a personal reason he won't invest. Is that way? Because I think of you as a guy who's just trying to find the best deal. I'm like, if you have all this diligence around Palantir that they're going to be...
I don't have a lot of diligence.
I have 250 videos. How do you not have enough? There's a whole website at this point.
When I made that initial investment, I admitted I went in after Cathie Wood. Cathie Wood was my due diligence.
Are you in the red? Are you in the red, Vitaly?
Oh yeah, I bought a $25 or so, 1,000 shares, 25 grand. So I don't even look at I don't even know what it's at right now. What is it at? I have no idea.
14, under 14 today. Yeah.
It's under. It ran up to 14. Now it's like 13.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, if Palantir gets, I'm not in a rush to sell it, but if there's an opportunity that's bigger, that I see that I can easily double, triple, easily. Right now, I don't see that. It's not clear yet because my favorite stock, Enphase, we didn't even talk about that. That ran up to over 200. But if it ever drops to 130 again and Palantir is hanging around the teens, Palantir goes out the window and Enphase gets bought,
Yeah.
Or Tesla. If Tesla falls to 7, 6, 5, oh my God, you think I'm holding?
We were just
well, I did. And I was buying on the way down. But I had a bigger buy set at $600 and that never hit.
Shit.
So I bought at 800, I bought at 700, then I had a big buy. I was going pretty heavy. Look, I'm already heavy in Tesla, but I'm willing to have 50% of my portfolio as long as it's at the right price. It has to be at the right price.
That's good. That's good. Discipline.
Yeah.
So you don't really care that much about Palantir. It was a YOLO for you, kind of.
Yeah, and I screwed that up. I screwed up that YOLO. And this is why you don't YOLO everything. This is the main thing, that now I'm stuck in a position I don't even really love. And I'm going to hold it right now. But as soon as a better opportunity presents itself, out the door. Sorry, guys. I just lost half your audience.
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, like, again, it's surprising to hear you say that, but I get it, because like you're over the moon on Enphase, and I get the Enphase story, but I'm still not in it. I'm over the moon on Palantir. You know, I'm over the moon on Palantir. You know, there's a ton of videos about it, but like, you still, like, I think it's so interesting. Like, if you just don't get it, like, you just don't fucking get it. Like, I just don't get Bitcoin that much. I'm just not in Bitcoin. It's just that simple.
Yeah, exactly. Because look, at the end of the day, we have to hold these investments for long periods of time. And if you just don't believe the story, or you don't understand it, you're not going to hold it. The bottom line is
through the red. You're not going to hold it through the red.
Yeah, but even the green. Let's say you as soon as the double comes,
you get 10% or something.
You're out.
Yeah,
that's it. As soon as the double, well, I'm probably going to wait for a little bit higher if I'm actually holding it. But still, because I'm more disciplined in that respect, I don't need to sell it tomorrow, and I don't need to clear the loss. I don't need that. But like I said, if Enphase drops to $130, all of a sudden I feel I have a double in Enphase. Why do I need a double in Palantir when I have a double? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I hear you. I heard your video on Enphase last time. I don't know much about it, but we could end it with this. But the reason, it's a funny story, and maybe you'll go back to the luck thing. The reason, when I was like taken over by Tesla, when I saw their solar roof presentation, and I said, oh shit, now these guys are, at least they have the vision to do more than cars. So I said the solar roof, and being a building engineer too, you know, that was, I knew that was like the new thing coming up. It still hasn't taken off. That's my point. So I fell in love with Tesla. I was overtaken by them when I saw the solar roof presentation, but it didn't really take off much at all, I don't think, unless you have more data on that. But the solar roofs don't seem to be a big.
I mean, market, right? I think there's, see, they have so much to do right now with the cars that I think all the other businesses are getting pushed aside. But if we're talking 10 years from now, I think solar and.
But what was up with that presentation then? They did that presentation like
Tesla always says
2016
something tomorrow, and they don't. Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, Elon promises. There's a good video, even though people hated him for it. What's his name? Ben Sullins totally ripped apart Tesla, and we did a video ripping apart Ben Sullins and whatever.
I saw that. Yeah.
So, but he did do the right thing, at least showing that Elon every year promises full self-driving, promises ABCD, and it's going to happen. That's the thing; it's going to happen one day, but. Everyone's saying that it's coming like this year.
But Elon said that recently, within the last 3 months. Elon said, "I'd be very surprised if we don't solve full self-driving by the end of this year."
Do you actually believe that?
No, me? No. As with the FSD that I have, it's not the beta. I was saying recently 9+ years. I was saying that last year with my So we'll see when I get the beta if my mind has changed. But no, I don't. Right. Well, by the end of this year, full self-driving solved. That's an enormous statement. But then is he a liar?
Well, no. Elon is just very optimistic, and that's why he's so successful too. You have to be an optimist, honestly. And Amit, he's doing his startup. You have to be an optimist that you think you're going to succeed against all odds. When I bought the first house, even it wasn't that big, like to you guys. I'm talking about it, but me and my partner had no idea that we were going to succeed. We had to believe it, right?
That's the difference between me and you. I have every idea that I know I'm going to succeed.
There you go. No, but I'm saying when I bought the first property, we didn't know anything, but we had to believe we were going to make it. We had to believe that, because otherwise we'd be bankrupt. We put all our money into it. We didn't have a lot.
Oh shit.
It's really interesting, bro, because I started my startup a year ago, and like you talk about ups and downs, and there were some days I didn't want to wake up in the morning because I was like, I just don't know what to fucking do in the day to like get things rolling. But like you get through those days, you get through the rough part. And this is for anyone going through anything in life. You stand up, you look in the mirror, you brush your teeth, and you're like, all right, what's the next thing to do? And there can be months where you're in this rut, and I've been through it. But then you break through, and it's like, it's the alternative of not breaking through, not selling that house, not figuring it out, versus the potential of actually doing it. And oddly enough, so many people in the lifetime of human history have quit before they figured it out, that if you just keep going, there's actually a good probability you will figure it out. It might not be Tesla level success, but it could be, meaningful in life. But you can't agree.
Huge. I'm going to clip that out and post it. That was a great rant.
All right. This was good. Thank you, Vitaly. Awesome.
Thanks.
If you guys don't know, his and Emmanuel's channel are in the description. All 67 of you, please, if you're not subscribed, give them both 67 subscribes tonight. and unsubscribe if you don't like the content. That's my thing. Like, subscribe, and then if you don't like it, unsubscribe. But definitely check them out. They do great stuff. I think they're both very underrated in finance in the YouTube space, and we're all growing together, which is going to be fun over time. So it's good stuff.
Good boys.
Good
Thanks,
debates.
man. A lot of fun, guys.
Got to take a mean ass piss, so I will be.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
I don't know what I'm paying for all this pissing, but okay.
You're paying for all this. Bye, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Later, man.
Ciao. Thanks for talking.